Welcome into the Paladins Premier League, everybody. I'm Agro. I'll be the special guest host for today as we kick off the final week of the Paladins Premier League. It's going to be a big one. Of course, we've got Nick Pretty Hair Keogh, the Paladins mainstay, standing by with me to help guide us through. Nick, all day today, we've got a triple header, huge day for the PPL, and all of these games have really important seeding potential for MSI.
Yeah, every single seeding except for first can switch after this week. Obviously, the top 6 are locked. First is locked, but 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6 are all subject to change depending on how the games go this week.
It's going to be a lot of fun, man. This is what you dream of, right? That you know the teams that are going, but some seeding implications, so all the games matter. Of course, Ninjas in Pajamas have been tearing the Paladins Premier League up, but Navi, Spacestation Gaming, and Envy all locked at 8 wins right now.
Right, and the way the schedule is sort of drawn up, if people lose to the people they're supposed to lose to, meaning people currently above them in the standings, and beat the people they're supposed to beat, meaning people below them currently in the standings, there's going to be a 3-way tie for second. It's going to get messy. We're going to call in Cooper to get the official rulings and stuff like that. You know, head-to-heads are tied in those top 3 or in those 2 through 4 spots, so it really is. I mean, it's going to get messy. We're going to have to get down in the weeds a little bit to break that tie.
Can't wait, man. It's going to be so much fun. But that's only if things go as we expected. And as we've seen, you can't really write those in stone by any stretch. SSG has had a really good season so far. There's a team that everyone was really excited about coming into this year. I mean, just talking with everyone in the green room, that this Brazilian squad was coming in and going to hopefully make an impact, and they've certainly done that.
Absolutely. The squad started playing at week 4, which is why they're still kind of catching up. They had 4 games one of these weeks. They've got 3 here today, or they're a part of this triple header here today.
Sure.
And this is a squad that has really kind of started to be on the upswing for a couple of reasons in particular. Now, the hit scan champion pool has been pretty light this season. At the onset, it was really just a lot of Leon and players that weren't playing Leon or had it picked away or banned away were switching to Cassie. But beyond that, there was a little struggle. Maybe a little bit of Victor here, playing a little bit of this, a little bit of that. But Tyra's and Vivian's were kind of the answer for Space Station as of late. And you're going to see in a lot of these highlight reels, you're going to see Aries playing that Tyra or playing that Vivian. And of course, Mitau here on the support, that mainstay with those Cherry-on types. I know that's your boy right there.
That's my boy right there, Genos. Anytime I get to see him, I get excited every single time. But the healer pool certainly feels like there's a lot more options than there are than what I used to be accustomed to the last time I was on the Paladins days.
Absolutely. You hit the nail on the head there. Furia has come back in. She's received some recent adjustments to Cherish, which is basically just range on her right-click. She can basically right-click anyone from almost any range on any map, so she's really found another place. Ying for those OG guys, and Mitau is in that conversation for SSG, has come back up as well, but there's been a lot of healers available. Genos still kind of sits at the top of that food chain.
This is a tough game, though, up against Navi, who obviously is near the top of the standings as well. But Space Station, I think, is a team that, from what I have seen in my limited experience, is one that if they can stick to their game plan and play at their highest level, I mean, their run at Worlds last year was really, really impressive. So they have it in them to beat a team like Navi.
Absolutely. And Navi are a squad that love to play the point. So that's why the Lazy Rochelle, the point tank matchup, it's not one we really often talk about, but it's one you have to talk about with these 2 teams. They have 2 of the best point tanks in the league. And what sets those 2 guys apart is the ability to play the objective, but at the snap of a finger, really realize, okay, now my best course of action is to actually get off the objective, like you see Rochelle doing here, get into the enemy backline and start putting pressure. Support rotates and takes my place. And like I said, Lazy, Rochelle, both incredible at knowing when is that time.
And from what I've seen in the past few picks and bans phases over the last few weeks I've been looking over, frontline seem to be a very high priority in these picks and bans as well. The top pick, Barracks, and Atlas a little bit different, but that's kind of what you expect.
All the time,
I'm not expecting to see a whole lot of him today, but those frontliners seem to be a huge priority for most teams.
Huge. I mean, off tanks for the most part are what you're going to see banned and picked away, and because of that, that's why you'll see point tanks left open and highly prioritized.
It's a big day for Space Station. They've got 2 sets today in our 3 games, but we've got Kresnik standing by to talk about their first matchup against Navi.
All right, guys, down here in the booth, here with none other than Kresnik, the head coach for SSG. First of all, let's just jump into it. Let's talk about Navi. Last time things went in their favor. What are some of their strengths and maybe something you can exploit out of them today?
I think their strength is in kind of the classic EU, patience, defensiveness, but knowing when they have to get aggressive. And I think watching the games, knowing what they would like to do, I think there are ways we can exploit that.
Is that just maybe playing aggressively, trying to get them uncomfortable?
I think since European teams tend to draft pretty similarly, I think it's more reading what they want to do early and figuring out how we want to deal with it.
Got it. We're in a pretty interesting spot here, actually, where the cards falling where they may. There could be a three-way tie for second place in the MSI. Just in general, how important is seeding actually going into MSI? I know a lot of people think that they can win, any given day, anyone can win. How important is second seed to you guys?
I mean, being able to play against the PML teams or the PCL teams, depending, it could be both. It could be a benefit or bad, because those teams, they have EU PPL players that have that experience from the past, and who knows what they could be bringing. So honestly, I don't know how important seeding is, because I really do think anything could happen going into MSI.
Got it. Well, best of luck to you guys today. Thanks for chatting with me. Let's send it back to the desk and get this set moving.
Thanks to the incomparable Dolson and Kresnik, of course, for taking some time. Look, SSG, they know they've got a lot on their plate today, but I think that they've proven in the past, they've had a couple of these double, triple headers, as you mentioned, that they can handle that sort of, we're not done playing after one set mentality.
Right. This is a squad that, unfortunately, two of their kryptonites are Envy and Na'Vi. They've had incredible sets at the World Championships with those two squads, both going all 7 games. So LATAM has yet to kind of overcome those real powerhouses from NA and EU, but if there's a season to do it, I think it's this one. And part of it is coming back to how important playing the point is for Na'Vi and how good Lazy is, but the recent sort of uptake in the strategy of Tyra and Vivian, who are exceptional, best in the game at shredding through those Inaras, those barracks, things like that. It changes Lazy's time to kill, I think. And if Lazy can't, shift gears to the inordinate amount of pressure he's likely to receive today, then Navi are going to be in a weird spot.
So what is the counter adjustment? Because that's how the meta works always. It's one thing, then we turn to counter that, and then it's turn to counter that. Do you pick a second big frontliner? They can't kill you both. Do you double up on healing to try and keep that one guy alive? What do you think the strat should be?
You have to pick a higher mobility backline to be able to dive and put pressure. A flanker for the most part. But the struggle is that FRZ God is one of the best EVs in the world. He's going to be right in there with Fisheko in that conversation for top 2. My personal opinion is Fisheko at the moment, but where Eevee goes today is a big thing. If they allow SSG to strip that away, she's by far the strongest flanker in the meta right now, and to some people the only flanker in the meta right now. So if they can't grab that, then they're going to have a hard time diving what is likely to be a somewhat immobile backline.
That's something that you have to keep your eye out for sure, as well as what creatives could play on this team as a flex member here.
Yeah.
Someone that can be difficult to pin down exactly what he wants.
He's going to be a critical role for this squad. And they had to play with their manager. They had to play with Mike last week, and he was a big part of shouldering a lot of that weight in the essential 4.5v5. Mike's a beast, so we'll give him at least half of PPL's credit there. But you can see him here on the Eevee. Something he's played for a long time, but I don't know that it's his first choice, right?
Sure.
Life or death 1v1, FRZ God is taking Eevee every single time. And I actually don't know if I could answer that question for creatives, because he is the true definition of flex. He's kind of, pioneered this role in terms of playing just a ton of stuff at this level.
It's an appropriate name for him then, right?
Yeah.
He named himself the right thing. Got to have some respect for that. Look, Na'Vi, as you mentioned, has done pretty well against SSG historically, so we expect them to be the favorites, but is it clear cut? I mean, do you expect 4 or 5 games here, or do you expect this to go the distance?
It's distance for me. I don't think this one's clear cut. Na'Vi won the first meeting between these two teams, but that was with them kind of getting here late, getting settled. Sure. Na'Vi had already been here at full strength for a couple of weeks, so you have those kind of asterisks, caveats, whatever you want to call it.
With the front line under such heavy pressure, the support healers are going to be under a lot of pressure as well. So we got a chance to sit down and talk to Spunky a little bit earlier on. Let's hear what he had to say.
I think they're easily top 4 with us. It depends so much on drafting nowadays. I mean, of course, we just play what. We just draft for their draft and the map, basically. I think that will be FRZ God. Yeah. It's just banner pick Eevee, and he's much less intimidating. Yeah, that's pain in my ass actually. That's why I don't want him on Eevee. But yeah, it's. I think they play a bit differently. FRZ is more solo player, and Kratos plays a bit more with us, so it's different play styles. I mean, they play like us actually. Yeah, they play objective a lot, but sometimes they just draft like a super aggro and they just go in, and that's basically like that. Overall, they're almost the same like us. They play like us. Yeah, that's. I mean, it sounds weird, but we're more comfy against NIP than SSG, even though SSG might be easier. Kinda. We haven't scrimmed them a lot actually, so I think they are like evolved and playing better than before. I mean, we don't scrim NIP either because they're here when we are at the America. I mean, EU, and then they're at EU when we're America, so we don't actually scrim either. They play like, because they're Brazilian, well, Latin players. They play really like a lot different than EU and NA players, but now they're taking more, like they're playing more and more against NA, so I guess they play more like NA now. Not in a bad way, of course.
Spunky definitely talking about that Eevee selection that you were worried about, Nick, with FRZ God, but you could tell that there's a bit of respect in his voice there. He knows this is going to be a tough match.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, whether or not Freeze God gets Eevee, it's a direct correlation to his KD, right? He has to deal with that. He was saying it's a pain in my ass if this character goes through for this player. So that's something I'm sure he's going to be sort of lobbying for when they get into picks and bans. But at the whole, you really have to focus on the bigger picture, I think, for SSG. However, Eevee does usually put herself at the forefront of that picture when anyone's drafting against this team.
Will be Jaguar Falls, our first map here between these two sides. This is one that Eevee can certainly do some good stuff on at times.
Yeah, Eevee has the flexibility to be played, especially with the players that you're talking about in this set, on most any maps. If there was a map for them to switch off of it, though, and for them to pull out Drogo's Bomb Kingy sort of stuff, the more 2-3 position blasters, this would be the map. This is the spot for it. There's an interesting dynamic here where Bomb King does very, very well in all of these tiny rooms with these shorter lines of sights. However, if you allow you park this Bomb King inside, then you give Drogos real free reign outside. But the conversation is not there yet. The conversation around what is making through the draft at the moment, and Makoa, extremely rare to see him let through in a match of this caliber, but he will go Na'Vi.
Well, that Tyra ban is what stands out to me for Spacestation.
Yeah.
And as you mentioned, that's been a big pick for Spacestation themselves. And then they picked the Khan Cassie right away, but no Eevee this early on. Is it a bit too early for her?
It tells me they're just more focused on the off tanks right now. That, letting that Makoa through. Tyra is a good ban for either side. I think both Mutu and Ares are going to be. It's so funny, man. These teams stack up very similar to each other. How they play, what they play. This is going to be just such a great match. I'm very excited for it. But I think it comes down to they want Khan more than they cared for Makoa. Khan always has overpower. He has ways to kind of control Makoa at the end of the day. So I guess that's where SSG are putting their chips.
Looks like Na'Vi do want to double down on the frontliners. Barrack, the selection there. They're hovering Maldamba as well. Certainly a healer that if you're going to go double frontline and sit on the point a whole lot, as you mentioned, Na'Vi tend to do, Maldamba probably the best pick to keep those frontliners healthy. For
sure. He's got a great loadout card, Swift Spirits. And we played this when I made you play Terminus that one time. It was on Jaguar Falls, so you could just lawnmower everybody.
I'm still recovering from how good that felt for sure. Terminus, my other boy, alongside Genos, of course.
Oh, man. Funnily enough, SSG actually pulled Terminus out twice this split. The only team to be ballsy enough to do it, but it didn't go well for them. But that's because they didn't have my Maldamba.
That's right. Yeah, they didn't have our synergy.
It's two peas in a pod, man.
Nothing you can really do about that. you hate to see it for them. As SSG will also pick a second big frontliner in that Inara, but can Ying do enough to keep Khan and Inara healthy?
She can. She's very similar to Maldamba in terms of throughput, and in some situations with how popular Resilience is, which is just the CCR item from the item store, she can actually be better in the fact that she doesn't have she's one of the few supports that doesn't have a CC-based ultimate. Maldamba's ultimate is going to fall off as that item comes online, whereas Ying, the throughput falls off as well, but you can still get value out of it.
Bomb King and Vivian will be the two selections to round it out for Na'Vi. So no true flanker but the Vivian, great DPS on these tanks, as you mentioned. Bomb King can certainly do that, a little bit of that as well.
Yeah, and I think at the end of the day, they take that away from SSG. Tyra, Vivian are two very important parts of the hit scan pool for these two teams in particular, and it's kind of a recent-ish development. Na'Vi played Vivian a decent amount at the World Championship, so I do want to kind of give them credit for having done that before, but it's something that I think they're doing now in response to recent developments for SSG. It's not something that they've been doing outside of this matchup more recently.
SSG having to think about what they want here in the draft. Do they need a flanker here to try and take down this Vivian?
I don't know, man. I think with Eevee or with Makoa in there, he really kind of jumbles a lot of things up. Eevee is vulnerable to Makoa. Blinking in, you get caught by the hook, you're literally dead. That's kind of true for any character, but more so for Eevee. Vivian is that hit scan threat. That's the only thing that I'm worried about right now for picking this Drogoz, but it's something that you kind of, it's what's left, man. You got it. This is 10th pick. You got to play around what you got to play around right now because the game is kind of set up, so this is a very educated pick in terms of grabbing this one. Vivian is not the longest range character either, so it's not, if he stays up in the air and stays far from Vivian, I think he'll be okay.
It's going to be a fun one. Spacestation in their first set of the day, but won't be their last. A big one, though, up against Na'Vi. Let's throw it over to the casters, Gormizer, and the one and only Dolson.
Thank you very much, Agro. Thank you, Nick, as we get into our first set of the day. And it's a very implicative set number one, because if you look at the potential for MSI, Gore, you have maybe a three-way tie up there at the top. SSG, they need to win both of their sets this week. That's true.
And if they win this, then it changes a lot of things for later in the day. So a lot of that will come, I think, right after this. But there's a lot that is implicative just in this match, right?
That's true.
You get a lot of drafts that come through. SSG banning a Tyra is something I never thought I would see, considering
normally
how
they
good
pick the
Ares
Tyra.
looks on it. But I mean, they're coming through. We were actually watching plays the other day, and we've seen Freeze God on Drogoz on this map get quadra kills at the beginning of rounds. So it's not necessarily bad from them.
No, and they get the Drogoz, of course, notably with Tyra being banned out. Of course, that opens up Makoa now to come through, which is always a threat. Mutu's going to be piloting the Vivian this time around. Beautiful talent screen, as you see coming up here. Notably, Ying and Damba are the two healers in this case. The Damba not as surprising, but the fact that Genos is sort of starting to slip out of favor a little bit, Gore.
Also notable that Mutu had Booby Trap still equipped instead of Opportunity and Chaos, which is what we kind of seen. And that's going to be a little more control coming down from this Vivian, a little bit of knock-up, a little bit of damage coming down from those Sentry Mines, instead of what you would typically see, which is I'm just going to fire for 2 seconds and hopefully kill you at the end of it.
Well, looks like Spacestation are taking a little bit of a page out of the Natus Vincere book, sticking Rachao on the point to start off, but Creatives is going to find first blood right onto that Inara. Phoenix is low here. He's going to use the shield just to get themselves back onto the point. So now Natus Vincere have regained control lazy on one of his favorite champions on the Barrack this time around. We'll be doing a lot of fighting from the point here, forcing Space Station back. Natus Vincere have pretty firm control over this front area.
I'm honestly going to be looking at this Cassie that has to go big. Ares has to have such a huge impact, not necessarily in killing a Bomb King, not really in killing Vivian. He has to kill Makoa. This big game has to deal so much damage to that Makoa. It has to make sure to just lock him down. And unfortunately, right there, he's the one who gets locked down.
That's a wild stun there. Phoenix on the Makoa gets 3 now. Phoenix starting off this day in top form, 81%. Make it 84. And make it a clean sweep for Natus Vincere. 96 will become 100. Na'Vi, 0 death scores. 0 deaths in that first engagement. Space Station Gaming need to find their footing.
So every now and then, Makoa slips through. And I always refer to those games as the fresh reminder as to why Makoa gets banned. And I think that's exactly what Phoenix is going to do here. This is one of the ones that I've seen them, not even in the last week, 4, 5, 6, 7 weeks ago, every now and then you'll walk past the scrim rooms and Phoenix will look up with a smile on his face and Makoa on his screen. It's you're never going to get that. No one's ever going to let you have this because he's so comfortable on it. And when you're in a position, you have a little bit of a counter on SSG, you can handle him. It's just so hard. You get hooked out of the sky if you're Drogoz. You just get hooked outright if you're Cassie. You can take him down. It's just not going to be an easy match.
Well, that Cassie uptime is going to be so important because she's really going to be the one who needs to deal with this Barrack and the Makoa. A few ultimates starting to fly on the back end. Natus Vincere notably using the Dread Serpent. Spunky's going to net a kill because of it. Ares answers back, though. There's the Ancient Rage as well from Phoenix. Comes through. No kills, though. Seismic Crash, everyone throwing everything they have at the wall right now. Ares has to roll back. 100 health is all that's left. Gets out, gets to safety. But Phoenix gets one onto Rochelle, makes it 2 onto Ares. This is just a minute left on the payload fight. They're looking just to get back, get it moving forward, and they do just that. And this is a map where you don't need, the full 2 minutes to get this pushed in. You can go from overtime from even around here. So that's a good fight back from Navi.
Not only being able to use overtime, but a minute to push the rest of this way is plenty of time if you're getting kills. And you're burning ults on the side of SSG.
Right.
The only thing they have up right now is the Dragon Punch. Soon they're going to have Scout, but that's not going to help them stop and find a defense. On the other side,
That's
there's
true.
a Dome Shield device space. You have a King Bomb device space. And of course, those Sentinels, whenever they decide to come out there for the Vivian, it's just going to be absurd amounts of damage. I don't expect Navi to try a lot of those ults, but if
Right.
they want to find the 2-0, they will push for it.
A lot of teams feeling comfortable, kind of throwing everything at the wall that you need to just to secure that second point. Why not? But that's a very good point. They bring out the Dread Serpent, they bring out the Ancient Rage, and they got so much in return. Spacestation had to burn the Seismic Crash, burn Illusory Rift, and the Overpower. They're starting to recharge here with about 15 seconds left. There are the Sentinels. Lazy, though, with an opening kill onto Sadak. That opens up a little bit of space there in the front line. Makoa now sort of free and clear to bully the second on a Rochelle. They have only one frontliner, as Sadak is respawning in the back here with 1 second left. This payload's getting so close to going in, Gore.
And there's going to be the Dome Shield trying to open up. There's a Dragon Punch flying up into the sky, but it's just going to fly away. Freeze God looking to just reposition as he comes into the fight again.
Dragon Punch does not find any value here. Oh, there's the hook out of the sky that you were looking for. He trades out his life, but he gets the kill in return. The Dread Serpent's back up for the second time in this game. Mutu and Lazy and Creatives, all three getting on the board. Ares is the last to fall, make it 5 in a row, and make it 2 for Natus Vincere.
Phoenix dies in that engagement, but if he doesn't hit that hook,
Yeah,
then
wow.
Freeze God is up free reign, and he just, Reign of Terror, as it would
Yeah.
be. It's not going to be the talent he's running, but it would be perfect for him because it's just so much damage that Drogoz can apply, and he's going to be almost untouchable. Mutu might be able to focus on him, but the thing is you find that. I would argue that's about max range, if not max range, right? Like, it's almost there, and we should be able to see it here, because, that's a
absurd.
fair distance to be able to find a hook. Flicks to find him, pulls him down, and gets the kill, gets him killed off on top of it. If he stays alive up there,
That must be max range.
then
You're right.
this changes for SSG.
I think in that point, that's a huge moment for Phoenix. He realizes he's low, and he still has his ultimate. He didn't get the chance to burn his ultimate, and they got the point. So the Ancient Rage, that could buy so much here. He's going to whip it out, whacking away, but it's just buying himself just a little bit of time right now. Seismic Crash answers back in the backline. Creatives is going to get it, but there's no follow-up damage. There's so much in return. The Makoa hook pulls Rochelle back in, but it's only 1 kill as things level out here. 2-0 is where we stand, but Natus Vincere back to fighting from the point.
I mean, just so many good things are happening for Navi. It's hard to break down every single one of them. The control that's coming down,
Phoenix.
specifically out of Phoenix right now.
Oh
This
my
is
God.
a written testament. This is a shining example of why the top teams should never be allowed Makoa, why he's banned every single time. And it's not, he does absurd damage. Yeah, his ult's really good. It's admittedly that hook that stops so much, that just stuns you and locks you out.
It's also a guy who loves Khan, a guy who loves Atlas. Creating space is what Phoenix does so well. The aggressive frontline push in, and then you get him on one of the best champions to do that, who's constantly banned. That makes you wonder. The Tyra ban in exchange for the Makoa coming through. It has some merit. Illusory Rift buy some time here for Spacestation Gaming, but then that's where the eyes go. You give Phoenix the Makoa in exchange for the Tyra, you get the Khan in return. It's sort of that pick ban jumble that ends up happening, but what we do know, Phoenix is good on this champion as well as many of the others.
It's definitely the balance, right, between what front lines do we want to let through, how do we want to balance this, and is Archon going to be good enough to beat their Makoa? No, is the screamingly loud answer. Bright red letters flashing on, it is not working out here. It might just be a Jaguar Falls thing, but the thing is, Khan pretty solid on this map. Makoa is solid on every map.
Yep.
There's not a single one that I think, man, we don't want Makoa here.
True.
Even though, on Timber Mill, he's not going to be the best, but he's still going to be good. On Split Stone Court, not going to be the best. He's still going to be good. You're not going to pass him up.
I think we sat down with Pule to do to play like a pro, and we're like, so what are some bad maps for Makoa? And he just sat there and stared at us. He didn't know what to say. Early kill coming out from Creatives. That puts Spacestation at a 4v5 disadvantage as Payload's rounding the corner. The Dragon Punches haven't connected up to this point, but this one will, and it's on to Phoenix. That's so important. Mutu as well goes down. FRZ God goes big, but it's not enough. Natus Vincere, they have the numbers advantage on the back line. They push it in, and they win game number 1.
Honestly, you could get a feel from that game. There was one shot in the first round, the first point fight, where Phoenix arcs a cannonball into hitting FRZ God. It doesn't get the kill. It was right after his triple kill, but he gets that damage, and like that's a difficult shot to make if you're playing Makoa. Like, you should know that cannonball is really heavy. It's very hard to hit anyone vertically with it. He hits that one. Then when you see that hook, like that's just kind of last nail in the coffin.
It seems like Space Station, they're such a good team, but it's like Na'Vi and Envy seem to have their number for whatever reason, and it's no exception here. I mean, a lot of the space was brought on by Phoenix, but at the end of that game, Mutu was on like a 22 streak or something absurd like that, and they're such a good team at creating space and capitalizing on it. And it's just more of the same from them here.
I kind of want to echo like what MetaPusher had said yesterday with Na'Vi, where it was like, you know, if you want to equate like playing with Mike last week, it's like training with sandbags. Like they just have heavy weights on, and then Mutu comes back. And last week they took the weights off 4-0. They still don't have the weights back on. Like they went through their training period. Now they're right back up to 4.
Right. Well, Mike is there for a little bit of support here with the boys today. Of course, that's right. Spam the bike to help Mike. Game number 1 goes the way of Na'Vi. Let's send it back to the desk and hear what they think about game 2.
Impressive stuff from Na'Vi there. I mean, that was over in the blink of an eye. This Makoa pick, I mean, it was a little bit of a risk, you said, to give it up first pick, and it seemed to have really bit Space Station there.
Yeah, I don't think they quite handled it, or maybe that, you know, that's always the plan. You're always aware of that character, so when you do let it go to the first pick, you have to have something to do with it. And sometimes, you know, Phoenix and guys and off-tanks can just outperform what you were prepared for. I think a lot of those hooks were sort of that situations. He didn't even necessarily have any Ancient Rages that wiped the team. You know, the little one kill there onto Khan, and we only had 2 rounds, so there wasn't an Ancient Rage really in the first round. It's a very slow charging, high impact ultimate. 8-3. It's a very, very nice setup. But I think Lazy was really good as well. We saw him put down some pretty aggressive dome shields. And like we said, the big thing with Lazy and Rochelle, the thing that they're so good at is realizing when it's time to transition from just point objective pressure into getting aggressive and pushing people out in the back line.
And this 9th pick, Vivian, for Na'Vi goes 9-1 for Mutu. I mean, the Drogos couldn't really close that gap, get in there and deal the damage. Ares had his hands full with the frontliners basically the entire time. And as a result, that Vivian just got to pound the front line of Space Station.
You see, man, look at where this fight is. And look at where Drogos is. Like, who's he shooting? That's the problem, is they really did a nice job of keeping these fights contained to indoors when they could. So this Drogos just could not be effective. They were very, very concerned with how to keep a leash on FRZ. I mentioned that, you know, you can do EV on Jaguar Falls, but it's much more likely that you're going to see Drogos Bomb King here, and that just did not pan out for SSG this time.
No, certainly not. And poor Ares on this Cassie pick was just getting hooked all game long, consistently pulled in by Phoenix. This Makoa pick, I imagine we will not see Space Station try and risk it again. And if we do, then it's going to be with a different sort of setup to try and get him down.
Definitely. It's very, very tough, especially for Sadak. Yes, he gets his con. Yes, he gets this very, very powerful pick that is normally very good at controlling the game and controlling space and making room for Cassie to otherwise do a really good job against, you know, Makoa traditionally. But you can be just so surgical with the dredge anchor, man. You can just completely pull her out from a spot. You see, FRZ guy was floating off of the map, and he still got pulled in. That's always why he's been number 1. That's why Makoa has been an apex predator for literally as long as he has been in the game, as he existed in the realm. So, you know, we just kind of get to see that put on display. And every once in a while, that happens. He sneaks through, and everyone just goes, oh, yeah. That's why we ban him.
Right. It just feels like you're putting you're expecting, when you give it the Makoa pick, it's almost like mess up.
Yeah.
Like that's the game plan. We're going to pick what we can, and we're going to try and put pressure on him. We're going to make it hard on him.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, if you execute with Makoa, it's hard to lose.
It definitely is, and that's why it's kind of a funny conversation, because he's always first pick, first ban, and competitive, but actually one of the lowest win rate tanks overall. Because a lot of that is surgical precision. You have to be on point with your dredge anchors. You have to be on point with your shots, period, or you're just not going to be very effective. Eevee is banned out on Splitstone. Flankers and mobility, very important on Splitstone, because there isn't a lot of vertical mobility in the meta right now. And if you can dominate, there is a lot of up and down around the objective on this map. So if you let something like that Eevee go and you can't get anything to answer it, you really just give up a lot of map control for free.
So this time we see a bit of an adjustment there for Space Station. They still lock in the con, want to keep that on their side, but no Makoa this time. Navi's the one to ban that out. So instead they're hovering a couple frontliners. The Barrack, as you mentioned, was great last game for them. But it's a matter if they want to take this Inara away as well.
This is really interesting. These are both the point frontliners. Now Rashao, they kind of have to answer what they want to do with him. Do they want to put him on Fernando? That's not typically where you see them go. There is another good aggro frontliner open. They could go Ashe if they want to do that. I don't know, and I don't think they'll pick that right now because obviously Na'Vi, both their frontliners locked in. There's no rush, but I don't think even if they wanted to rush, they wouldn't be too happy with what's at the end of the tunnel for them.
Ashe certainly looks like one of the best available options there for Rashao. Space Station, the Tyra was banned last game, and with the double frontliners locked in already for Na'Vi, is that a consideration?
I think so, man. I think they're going to need that to burn through these double point tanks. There is a very particular, I call it the bleachers. It feels like you're under the bleachers, essentially. Think of like a middle school type of gym. It's very compact. There's a map hazard in there, which is why Makoa is so, as if he could be any better on this map in particular. But Khan can overpower, dunk somebody into that map hazard. So control of that room is going to be very important for Na'Vi because it's it basically butts up to the point. It's extremely close by. So if you're controlling the room, it provides a nice safe haven for your front lines, the point front lines, to just sort of, they'll tag team back and forth on the point. Once Inara gets low, she'll come in, Barrack will go out.
You know that under the bleachers, that's where all the stuff that's not supposed to happen happens, so that makes sense to me. Genos locked in. They did go with the Ashe pretty early on, but they still get the Tyra anyways. Na'Vi elected for that Cassie instead.
So it's not Eevee, but I think they'll be in a good spot here with this comp. So the idea is double damage amp. You get the mark, you put the Luminary mark on Maeve, Tyra marks a target, even more damage amp. It's a total of 40%. That doesn't diminishing return, so Maeve's attacks are going to just be hitting that much harder. She's almost all auto attack damage as well, so synergizes very, very well there. We'll be able to shred these frontliners up, but again, it comes down to if you can do 90% of their health very quickly, it doesn't matter if they have all the control of the bleachers and they just fall back to a complete safe haven.
Bomb King is there for Na'Vi, maybe can help control that little close-in area there underneath the point. Do you think this is the Space Station comp that can get them a win here?
I think it is if they play it right. I think it's going to come down to a lot. Like I said, that bleachers is like maybe 25% of the relevant area of the point fight, and when you draft like SSG, the pro is you get all the rest. You might not have the bleachers and it butts up really nicely against the point, but you get everything else. You get a lot of different angles to attack from.
Let's throw it to game two. It's Gormizer and the incomparable Dolson.
Listen, if today is going to just keep being this way with aggro on the desk, I won't mind it.
There's no downside.
There's no downside to this one at all. Splitstone Corey, this is a map that's kind of bounced in and out of favor. You know, we would, earlier in the split, I feel like we would see Splitstone Corey so often, and now it's just kind of become a one-off pick.
And it is definitely a map. If you're looking at anyone, it is 100% Space Station Gaming's map.
Yeah,
right?
absolutely.
This is one that they come to. They know it really well. They control it. They get the draft they want on this map as well. Like Ashe is very good, can shoot from the point up to the high ground, up wherever the balconies are going to be. Same thing for Khan. And then you get the Genos, the Maeve, the Tyra. You have double damage amp to melt either front lines or carries. And Maeve, who we've seen Freeze God just absolutely carry games off.
I mean, this is the comp for SSG. This is where you're comfortable. You get the Tyra, you get the Genos, FRZ on a flank that he can make some individual plays on as well. This is where you're feeling comfortable, and they're already on the point, and that's the first blood from FRZ. I talk about the flank. You're getting attacked from both sides right now if you're Natus Vincere. You don't know which way to look. It's only Spunky in the back line right now. He's going to try to slither away. The assassination does not quite pay off here for FRZ God, but what does pay off is the initial aggression from Space Station Gaming. They're on the point with 36%.
And that fight is exactly the way Nick laid it out. You don't get the bleachers if you're SSG, but you get everything else. And so Natus Vincere, like Navi's safe space is the bleachers.
Right.
They hide under there with the drill, try to keep safe. You have vision on the point, but the problem is this kind of composition from SSG turns it from a safe place into a coffin. Like, you cannot come out of there. You don't even really feel safe in there, especially if your Bomb King goes down. I think that's where things are going to start to open up if Na'Vi find that kill.
And I think this is smart from Space Station here. They were on the point controlling it, but they saw the makings of what could be a losing team fight, so they back off. And look at that, FRZ in the background still just causing trouble from from both different angles, and then you stick Ares up on the high ground as well just to free fire away. FRZ is zoning out this Cassie right now, not letting really her get involved in any of this fight. The Midnight's ready, could come out to try to seal this one up, but instead he maybe is looking for a kill onto Mutu. Phoenix as well in the back line. Here's through time and space, doesn't find anything, but there's the Midnight. That comes through. Mutu's just trying to fire up into the air, doesn't find any kills here. Dread Serpent as well, but Sadak finishes off Phoenix. Might have blasted him back into the fidget spinners back there. That could have been a shot. FRZ got, he's still on the high ground. Kills 1, 2, they're all Space Station Gaming. Natus Vincere, they're going down, and it looks like SSG, they're going to take their first point of the set.
And that's the one thing I don't even think of that often with Ashe on this map, but it was a perfect showcase of, you kind of forget, like, if you're going to stand under the bleachers, Ashe can knock you straight back into a wall, and that wall will kill you if you are in the wrong spot. And I think Na'Vi might have found out the hard way that that's the case. And that's the control she brings. It's the way you can play it. And again, this is a map that they've played Ashe on so often, so much. They play her so well here, too. It's just incredible.
Sadak used the assert dominance there, probably didn't get as much value out of it as he was hoping. So this is a good stand on this side from Natus Vincere. You're right, though, and Space Station have just been, they've been playing their composition so well. They send FRZ on this Mave up to the high ground, kind of separated, honestly, from the rest of Space Station, but he's just zoning out Mutu the entire time. Mutu's not able to get forward and get comfortable, and then they kind of just do this big pincher move right on the underside of that bleachers. And it's worked out so well for them up to this point.
So something just solidified in my mind. While Lazy is, I would say, hands down, one of the best Barracks that I've ever seen play Paladins, it feels very, very odd to not have Phoenix on Barrack in this composition. Like that's what's really catching me off guard. I don't know if I've ever seen Phoenix play Inara before this, actually. So that's kind of where my eyes are, is what's the meaning like for this kind of switch? Why do they do it? And I mean, admittedly, we've seen aggressive Inaras. Uvim comes to mind when it comes down to it. Someone who's been stellar and made plays like this. It just doesn't feel like home for Na'Vi, though.
No, you're absolutely right. I mean, Lazy, one of the best on Barrack, but arguably one of the best on Inara. Right, and you know, sort of that aggressive frontliner normally goes over to the way of Phoenix, but FRZ, he staggers out Lazy here. If the daggers are good, you can put Natus Vincere in a bit of an interesting spot. They have everything but the Dread Serpent to defend, everything but the assert dominance to attack now for Space Station Gaming. Through time and space, could find a pick. Instead, it's going to be the overpower on a Creatives. Bomb King is gone through time and space. It just breaks down the wall, but the Dome Shield from Lazy is going to try to hold things up. Void Griff is going to hold him up right up in the air, but the boots are going to be able to get him a little bit of shield and get him out. But FRZ he continues to fight here. Mutu with 1. Spunky, that's an important answer back, but they're still at a numbers disadvantage. It's 3v4 here. They have a healer, a damage dealer, and a frontliner. Sadak just holding down. 10 seconds left. Overtime is going to start here in a moment.
And they had to do whatever they could to just to lock down Rich Chow. They are able to get Ares down at the very end, but you need to lock down Freeze God. This Mave is doing so much. A couple of daggers missed there. Doesn't find the kills, but Sadak goes down, and I think that's the big one. The frontliners were gone, and I think Na'Vi knew that's all they needed in this kind of composition. Genos, Mave, Tyra, they aren't going to defend the point. They're just going to kill you dead.
That was just, I think that was like respawn proximity advantage you saw there. Blasting Phoenix back. Sadak with some big plays and really controlling as he needs to. And this is, you know, normally Natus Vincere, they'll, you know, stick. There's the blast back into the fidget spinners onto Creatives. And normally Na'Vi is the team that you'll stick a Nara on the point. The rest of your team is going to create space, create aggression, and then by the time the fight is over, whether you win or lose, you're already at 50, 60%, whatever it may be. And they just haven't been able to get comfortable in that regard up to this point.
Well, this round is going to be very telling because how Na'Vi decide to set up. Again, the bleachers are probably where they're the strongest, but you can see they're kind of leaving people behind, specifically Cassie, to scout, watch, where is Mave, how do I lock her down? Unfortunately, Mave still does a ton of damage, so you're going to need a little bit more, but they stopped Freeze God from getting the rotation he did early on last round.
That was a Dread Serpent onto the point from Spunky just to force back Space Station for a moment. They were getting a little bit too much time. The shots from Phoenix are good. He can do it just as well as Lazy. Matter of fact, both of the frontliners are the ones with kills now in this trade back and forth. Space Station Gaming down to 3. Natus Vincere have now regained the point, and now it's their job to put in a good zone and prevent Space Station from moving forward.
And this is just such a good reaction from Na'Vi, right? Being able to plan it out and recognize, like, Bomb King is really good on this map in the bleachers. That's like where he wants to fight. Cassie can play anywhere. Like, Cassie doesn't care where you're going to be, and now you can set this up. A King Bomb's coming through. Once you get aggressive, once you get control, you can lock down SSG almost anywhere.
All Space Station Gaming were able to answer with is 30% through time in space. That goes through. It finds Creatives Rachel as well. One onto Phoenix. Overtime is up in favor of Natus Vincere here, but Midtown hanging in the back line, trying to do some healing. A little bit of damage maybe as well on the Genos. Dome Shield comes out onto the point for Natus Vincere. That buys some times, maybe some respawns. There's a crossfire as well as the Midnight. FRZ is trying to get aggressive. Finds the back of Lazy, but instead it's Aries with 2. Make it 3 in this fight now on the Tyra. Seismic Crash stuns him up. They only have 72% Space Station Gaming, so it's not do or die just yet for Natus Vincere, but they need to regroup and get a touch on this point.
It all kind of depends on Phoenix right here, and he goes down. If he's able to live just a little longer, he might be able to buy time, but they don't have anyone to touch, so there's no overtime for Na'Vi. They got pushed back and zoned out about as hard as you can get pushed back and zoned out.
I mean, Natus Vincere, they won the point, really, and then had a zone in on Space Station Gaming. I mean, notably, you can't really zone out of Maeve. She's too mobile, she's too, slippery. You can't really lock her down, and Freeze God was able to get back in and around. The shots are good. Creative's luckily able to answer back because 2 kills were in on to Natus Vincere this time around. But Freeze God was really able to slip by that break, and you could see him again. It's the matchup up top. He was basically 1v1ing Mutu on the Cassie on the high ground. And what a retake it was from SSG.
That was the thing. The beginning of the round, he runs into Lazy, and behind Lazy is Cassie, and then slightly off from Cassie's Moldama. Like, they staggered themselves out on Na'Vi to make sure that if you broke one wall, there was another. You had to go through 3. As the point fight goes on, you have to shift your frontline priority. They have to go to the point. So Lazy and Phoenix couldn't watch Lava Side the entire time. They couldn't stay over there. And all it needs is a little bit more room for Freeze God. And all of a sudden, he's like, hey, Cassie, how you doing?
Well, talk about room, Gore, and having a 5v3 advantage. That'll create a lot of room. This payload, I think, is going to go in if they're able to stagger out even a few more of these kills. There's not even going to be a chance on the opposite side from Natus Vincere. That's now 3-1. 2-1 is always my favorite scoreline to watch. In this case, it goes the way of 3. So now Space Station Gaming, they need to capture a point. Won't have a chance to push it if they do because the game will be over. But Natus Vincere, a capture and a push will tie this one up. So backs against the wall, at least here in game number 2. This is an important answer back, I think, for Space Station because this is such a tough matchup for them. It was 4-1 the last time these two teams played. And Space Station, they've been, again, trending upwards. We talked about it on Esports Weekly. This is a closer matchup on paper than, maybe a couple of the other ones we have this week. So this will be telling not only for MSI, but just sort of where these teams stand.
And it's also very big to look at the way things went for them just the last time they had multiple sets they had to play in a day. Like, the first set was a 4-3 that week. They played 4 sets, and then the others were all 4-0s. Like, or maybe a 4-1 in there.
That's true.
But, like, it's just, the first one was long, the first one was grueling. The first one was okay, we have to get back into this. And I think that was after they had come back, like, off a break. Like, they had been back home, so they had flown back in. They had, like, a little bit of time to play and practice here. But now they're coming in, and it's like, okay, they've been here. They've been scrimming. They still have that performance in them.
They could do it. Phoenix getting bullied back right now. He's got the wall up, but he just hasn't been able to get comfortable just as of yet. Only 35%. Normally that number's a little bit higher. Freeze God opting for a different strategy this time, hanging back closer to his team instead on the opposite side. Dread Serpent only finds Rachel here, but he's going to be able to battle shout and shield his way out of danger right now. Neither team wanting to make a big mistake here. You can tell both of them are sort of cautious about re-engaging here in this case. Seismic Crash, Dread Serpent both used. Midnight is ready as well if they want to re-engage. Natus Vincere and Space Station, both 2-3 ultimates up at the time. It's going to come down to whoever finds this next pick. If Natus Vincere, they get a kill here. They're already 58% on the point. They could capture this one.
58%, 62 now, and they still have comeback mechanic. I think that's the big thing. You get to 99 way faster. It forces SSG's hand. Again, lights a fire under them to make sure they go forward, and that's going to be the crossfire coming out just to make sure they can keep going.
That's a good chunk of damage. Half of it goes in onto Phoenix as well, who's at half health. The healing is good, though, from Spunky. He's going to keep that Inara health nice and topped off, but it is 1 kill for Space Station Gaming. That's enough to put them back on the point here. Spunky just hanging back, doing the best. They're looking for a re-engage here. They're going to find it onto Aries, but they answer back one onto Phoenix. So now he's gone. FRZ God, you got to check him. Creatives tries to use the King Bomb. He does just that. Freeze God goes down. Mutu answers with one on Sadak as well. Rachao is really the last member in range to really contest here. The stun comes through. It's not going to be enough. Mutu going big. It's going to be 2. It's going to be 2 for Natus Vincere.
And that, I think, is the biggest thing. Like, you lose both your front lines there. That is not an engagement you should be able to win.
Yeah.
But Ashe, Sadak pushes himself a little too far forward, right? And Bomb King's just like, cool. I love it when people peek me. That's my favorite thing in the world. Burns him down, and then the only person left standing is that Khan. The only person you have to burn down anymore. Maldamba Snake comes flying in, stuns him out, and Bomb King's like, all right, let's get to business. I know what I need to do here. And that's the thing. Creatives on Bomb King has had performances in the past for Na'Vi and is doing it right here, where this can be the mental shift for them, right? If Creatives starts to pop off, he lets the team know. And when the team knows, every single one of them gets a little more invigorated.
We saw this last week with Mike playing in their lineup. You know, they got 4-0'd, but there were maps where they took a few points, and it was largely on Creatives or Phoenix to just start going crazy in some of these fights. So he definitely has that potential. This time around, he's not, as he's cleaned up by Ares in this case. FRZ God now has to be on the defensive end. Going to help Sadak get one onto Lazy. So it looks like this push is stalled out for the moment. Natus Vincere going to drop back and regroup. Still 1 minute and 20 seconds left, though. And what a swap this would be, Gore. If Natus Vincere able to push this in, instead of it being 3-1 or 4-1 if Spacestation were able to cap, now we're 3-3. We're tied going into the last point fight. Natus Vincere seemingly have figured out how to slow down that mid fight.
It's probably one of the scariest things, but I don't even think it's the end of the world for them if they don't get this. Like, it's always frightening when SSG have the potential to close out the map. I think that's going to be true no matter what team you're up against. Being down 3-2, 3-1 is never comfortable. But being able to play with either a double comeback mechanic, just a comeback mechanic, like no matter what you have, you're going to keep yourself a little bit ahead here. And so even if they tie it up, they, like you said, slowed down the mid-fight. They understand what's happening right now. And if they can figure out this part, that's scary for SSG.
You got to be careful. All you have in the way of damage right now is FRZ on this Mave up top. They smell him out, but he's able to dash out, keep himself alive. Phoenix gets traded out by Midtow in this case, but Sadak goes down. This payload's getting close. They're not in range to contest. That is a successful push, and now we're looking at a 3-3 mid-fight. Natus Vincere with 5. Spacestation Gaming call it 5. That Overpower will be up very shortly. And looking at the damage charts, FRZ on this Mave, I mean, it's such a hit-your-daggers dependent sort of champion, and he has done just that.
I mean, we've actually even seen some like very specific moments between him and Mutu where it's like he'll pop his extra damage amp, he'll hit all 4 daggers, Mutu's dead. He'll hit 3 daggers, Mutu rolls out with a little bit of life, and Freeze God dies. Like, those are the 5 deaths he's been able to pick up. So 100,000, like over 100,000 damage, hitting a lot of his shots, but you're seeing those moments become a little more frequent. Like, he's missing a little more often as time is going on, and it's, at this point, a little more pressure. If you don't hit those daggers, Mutu stays alive, all of a sudden Cassie or Creative stays alive, and this Bomb King can just run rampant.
Well, it's the point fight to end all point fights here. Phoenix is looking for a similar strategy to what he found last time around. It's really been him and Creatives and Spunky hanging in the back of those bleachers, making sure he can find the healing. If FRZ God is able to find a pick, Mutu notably is up high, but they've answered back by sticking Lazy down in here on the barrack to try to check FRZ, I think, from going around the side. There's the Overpower. Rishao is able to get around the corner. He stays alive through the Overpower. Lazy, though, answers right on back. FRZ already has 2 in this fight. There's the Dread Serpent, but counters back right now at the Midnight. He's trying to dash up. Creatives is a juicy target for him around the backside, but he's not going to bite off more than he can chew. The daggers are just wide, but Ares is the one to step in. Now Spunky's in his sights. The Slither's going to save him just for a moment, but now the healing's gone for Natus Vincere. Phoenix is going to fall very shortly after this, unless his team is able to help him answer back, but they're not. Spacestation Gaming, they win that fight, and now they're on the point with 54%.
Awarded for his patience. Freeze God, like, just waits. He's like, I'm going to pop Midnight. And normally Midnight is the go button, but he didn't. He waited. He let his team go in. Ares went in. Ares gets the kill that he wanted to, and then it kind of draws out Spunky, brings out the healer, brings out the front lines, and you can burn them down. They're at 93%.
Uh-oh, with Lazy going down, that makes it a lot harder. Phoenix is now the lonely frontliner who needs to get in there and get a touch. The King Bomb from Creatives could find some value. Didn't come out the first time. Oh! Blocked out by the shoulder bash. Sadak gets himself out alive right now, so no more King Bomb. Creatives is in a bit of a tricky spot if Sadak calls his bluff right now, but he's able to get out. But Spacestation Gaming, they win it. Nobody's in range to contest, and that's an important answer back. It's 1-1.
That's going to be their map, though. Again, one that they know incredibly well, and one that they got a draft they love on.
Yeah.
and it's a 4-3. Like, that's where things like get a little shaky. Now, if you get to choose the next map, like, what you need from SSG is not just that kind of performance, but it needs to be a little faster next time, right? Like, it can be a 4-3, or even if it is, you need to be a little more solidly in control, because even at the end there, it felt like shaky ground for them. But they get a good draft. They have good control. And I think at this point, again, they banned out a couple of the maps that they're uncomfortable on, so they can at least maintain that.
And I think that's so important of an answer back there for Space Station, because
100%.
Now you're looking at a Na'Vi who's playing very good Paladins. You're looking at a Na'Vi who's maybe up 2-0, but you're able to tie it up. And now we're down to whoever wins 3 more.
And if you're looking at a 3-way tiebreaker, every single one of these maps is going to count for a differential.
That's right. Well, game 2 goes the way of SSG. No 4-0 today. Desk, what are you thinking?
Thinking Space Station's got to be feeling pretty happy. I mean, you in sets like this, you have to win your map pick, right? Especially when you go down 1-0.
Yeah, I don't think there was no easy way out of this if they weren't able to take Splitstone Quarry. A lot of good things for them, though. Like we said, that was almost Na'Vi doing like their classic thing, which is they play the objective extremely well. Everyone's negative at the end of the game, but they still win, and they kind of they shrug it off, say, well, we don't care about our stats, we care about our win-loss.
And they almost got there. I mean, Space Station jumped off to a good lead. Na'Vi bounced back, force it to that final round. But ultimately, this Mave pick for FRZ God, 15-5, over 100k player damage.
Yeah.
I mean, you mentioned how easy it is for him to rack that up with the Tyra mark and the Genos blessing.
Yeah.
But man, he was really making life difficult for Na'Vi.
No kidding. And he has to. He is a big part of the win condition. We talked about how much Na'Vi are going to play in this little room under the bleach. You see why I call it bleachers?
Yeah, I see it. I got it.
Perfect. It has to be this way. He has to be that win condition. He's got the mobility. He's kind of flying around this map. He's the one that's kind of controlling and utilizing all the space. Nobody else from Space Station is really, making sure that they can use that space. Nobody else has that mobility. So it's like if he doesn't perform, then this is a completely different game, but he steps up to the plate and knocks it out.
Especially in this final fight around the point. I mean, his ability to stay alive, he's able to pick off Lazy with Lazy has to overextend to make sure that Khan goes down. Just a good sort of waterfall of events that happens for FRZ God and the rest of Space Station, and they even it up at 1-1. But was it a little bit concerning to you that they jump off to an early 3-1 lead and then Navi's able to bounce back so well?
I think that's part of what Na'Vi does so well is like it's that bowling ball composition, right? It might not be it's coming, maybe not for you. It's not going to kill you, but it's gonna make it. It's go Lord, here we go. They're going to come down the lane. They're probably going to convert, and likewise if they start to get staggered, and a big part of staggering and breaking that bowling ball apart was the Khan overpower, being able to just remove some of it, remove one of the parts of the equation, makes it very difficult for Na'Vi to kind of do what they want to do when they're missing literally any part of the equation. So that was really, really good to see. And I like that they go back to the Khan after having investing in it, not taking Makoa in game 1 and kind of it not paying off, that they still know what they know and they feel good about taking it. As well as double aggro tank is not something they do a ton. Forcing Na'Vi on double point tank is not something they really do, and it worked out better for SSG.
Well, no Ash this time around. Na'Vi going to take that away. Stonekeep, the point pretty wide open, but lots more narrow circumstances, kind of like those bleachers on Splitstone Quarry. Is this type of map where we could see the EV potentially come out for Space Station?
100%. Yeah, this is I would be extremely surprised if we didn't see EV at this point in the set. Does it get banned out? Because like I mentioned, Creatives is totally cool to play it. That man right there on screen will take it away from Freeze God. First pick, though, that's the question. I don't know if they'll take it first pick. SSG in the past have shown the propensity to want to first pick that character. It's a big part of their success. Freeze God in general is a big part of their success. He does not do much game 1 in the Drogos. He's kind of left just flying high and dry. Sure, he had control of the skies, but to what avail? And he was not able to be a big part of that game 1, and they got absolutely blown out of the water.
Barrick has been a popular selection here for Na'Vi so far. He got played by them both games in a row.
There's hope yet.
But that leaves open Atlas, and I was going to say, I imagine that's where they're going to go. Spacestation has to, just like when you give up the Makoa, you know that that's what's going to get locked in, and you know you have a plan for it. What are the plans that are available to you when it comes to Atlas?
Well, they're really kind of invested in, I think, playing around these power picks, and this is fine. Na'Vi are an incredible team. You're never going to draft so well that Na'Vi just didn't have anything to play. So I think your best course of action is to sort of lull them into power picks that you are preparing exactly for, right? And that's kind of what they did with that Makoa. Didn't work out, but you have to sort of, draw those plans up and kind of stick to them when it comes down to game day. They do get the Inaricon, big frontline picks for them. They're going to be super happy with both of those, but the Cassie and Eevee are really, really strong power backliners for Na'Vi.
Is there any consideration in this current Paladins meta when you see a team like Na'Vi basically pick a bunch of damage early on here, and they don't have their frontliners yet, they don't have their healers yet, to either double up on healing or triple up on the frontline, just try and deny them a strong frontline comp?
Not in this matchup, but against like a more lopsided matchup, absolutely. I think we've seen even quad DPS from NIP at one point where they're just like, well,
you
asked for it. You drafted for this, brother. We'll show you how it's done. SSG, like I said, I really think they're walking Na'Vi into these power picks, into this Atlas, into this Makoa. I don't know what the plan is. That's where I kind of start to get a little bit in the dark. I don't know what that looks like. I think Phoenix has the best Atlas in the league right now, and I think that's going to be incredibly hard to play around. If he's having a good game, this is going to look like the thing with Makoa, right? It's just going to happen again. Phoenix is just going to, spearhead the charge, and Na'Vi are going to roll over SSG.
I mean, that's what he did with Makoa in game 1 of this set, so you have to watch out for it. Fernando, though, not ideal most of the time, in my understanding of the current meta. How does he fare on Stone Keep?
He does okay. It's less about maps for Fernando, and it's more about like the comp picked around him. And all Fernando really brings that's unique to him is that formidable talent. When he falls below a certain threshold of HP, he gets a ton of self-sustain, but it has long internal cooldown. And playing around that, and you keep getting that healing until you get back up to, I believe it's 50% HP or 65, somewhere in that range. But they're going to lack sustain here with Genos. They don't have a high, heavy throughput. You throw the hot, and then you just wish them well. You pat him on the ass and you tell him to get in there, kid. And so he needs to play around his own self-sustain to just stay alive. The point frontliner is just not Navi's win condition this game. They have to win with any of the other great avenues that they've drafted.
Atlas, certainly the big one here, I'd say, for Phoenix. It's going to be a lot of pressure on his shoulders to try and make sure that Na'Vi go up 2-1 in a very important set for the seeding here at the Midseason Invitational. Spacestation, did they draft enough to take care of this Atlas?
Yeah, they have their win conditions as well. Tyra Maeve, it's not the really, really high potent damage amp composition, but they definitely have ways to get in there and get picks.
All right, it's time to throw it over to the casters for game 3. It's Gormizer and the Titan, Dolson.
They just keep getting better. I'm breaking every single time. Game 3 about to get underway. It is Spacestation, and it is Na'Vi. And it is Atlas score. Atlas makes his way through. We saw this story the last time Spacestation said, all right, we're going to let you get one of the hyper-strong frontliners in Makoa. I don't know if I would put Atlas up in that pedestal, but nonetheless, you put Phoenix on Atlas.
5, 4,
I'm scared to be playing against that.
2,
And it's
1.
just such a big difference. Like, Makoa is scary because Makoa is going to consistently, like Phoenix, did not miss a hook, did not miss the shots. And that's the thing, is not missing his shots is still going to apply here. And 900's a lot of damage when it comes down to it, to any champion, let alone someone like a Maeve. But also running Deja Vu, having that lob rewind for pretty much everyone on SSG, it shoots around corners. He's going to be corralling and controlling them nonstop.
Spacestation have not been able to be comfortable at all through the first 30 seconds or so of this matchup. So many half-filled health bars right now for Spacestation Gaming. They're losing trades left and right now. They need to find a way to answer back. That's a good attempt at a rewind there from the Phoenix. The lob shot comes up just a little bit short this time around. FRZ God needs to be able to find himself some space, but it's not going to be up there. Phoenix says, no way. You're getting out of here. 60% already for Natus Vincere. Now they're back to a little bit more of their tried and true. They love to just sit on this point, poke out, and then maybe win the engage on the backside. That's exactly how this is working here. No kills just as of yet, though, Gore. As I say it, Mutu, he opens things up. And Sadak, he's so far in the backline, he has no health. He's basically out of the fight anyway. Lazy's able to get answered back onto, but Sadak Aries, they're falling, and Natus Vincere, they've been on the point this whole time.
A good little second chance right there. Keeps Phoenix fully in the fight. Now Rachao, well, he's left by himself. He has no one to surround him on the point, except for, well, the friends on Na'Vi. Not exactly who you want to see on the other side, but they move in. This should be a capture. There's going to be overtime, but, I mean, no one's close enough to touch.
Yep.
SSG just got zoned out, and from the beginning, right? Like, it almost felt like they didn't even belong on the point.
This is like vanilla Natus Vincere here, where you get somebody who can just hang out on the point, you stick your Fernando on your point, you stick Lazy down there, and does a little bit of damage as well, and then you just control with everyone else. That's exactly what happens here. Only a couple of kills. That's a good Ice Storm. Creative gets stunned out, though. Sadak is going to be the one to get in there and get the kill. FRZ drops the Midnight now. Are there any kills, though, on the back end of it? Not just as of yet. The dash out. Lazy goes down. This is just a little bit of time buying right now from Spacestation Gaming. 1 kill's all they're going to net, but they're going to stall out Natus Vincere from getting on the payload.
That little bit of damage, and definitely this overpower, is going to help a ton, though. Again, you're just trying to burn that timer. You can charge these ults back, no problem. You burn them now, you'll have them back for next round. Whereas you're going to notice Na'Vi, they're going to be looking to charge them up. They use them to confirm a point, to try and get a little bit of zone at the very beginning of the push. They aren't going to use them to get back, or at least they normally wouldn't. But it depends on how hard they get locked down right here. I mean, Creative's almost locked away and absolutely locked away.
Yeah, they're at an immediate disadvantage. FRC is going to be able to run rampant, I think, back here. If you're not going to be able to check him, now we're seeing the opposite of what we saw in the mid-fight, where Space Station are now really controlling all of these little side engagements. FRC just making life hell right now for Natus Vincere, and he's getting some kills to top it off. Finally, Mutu's able to check that, but with a minute left now, you're only about 2% of the way there. You have so far to go. If nothing else, Space Station Gaming made life very tough on this final push for Natus Vincere.
And this isn't even the normal hold. Like, normally the payload makes it to that archway where it's going to be a choke point. Then you get that kind of zone. Then they come back to that area, and it's still a choke point. Na'Vi haven't even made it to the choke point yet. They're finally able to get a couple kills here to get things rolling, but they need it to start rolling fast, and they need to get it as far as they can in the next, like, 4 seconds, 3 seconds until that Inara comes back.
I mean, it's not the longest map, so this is definitely still within the realm of possibility. Absolutely, with 24 seconds left, and with FRZ going down, this payload's going to round this corner here, but this is where you look at the way this game is going to go, especially with 15 seconds left. One team or the other gets swept out right here. This likely will either go through or be a defense, depending who's on the receiving end of the sweep. Phoenix has some exiles as well, which could come into play. All 5 ultimates back for both teams. But who is going to pull that trigger first? Because normally that's what happens. Somebody pulls the trigger, somebody answers back. Nobody, just as of yet. They're going to look for a pick. FRZ has to dash around the corner. Sadak goes down. That's a big contention point. Aries as well. Rachao makes 3. FRZ is alive. He needs to find some kills, but it's not going to happen. Mitau, the healer, he has no one to heal. He can only heal himself. It's not going to matter. This payload goes through. Space Station Gaming, they bought time, but not enough of it.
And there's so much about what Na'Vi is doing where they are not as dependent on Mutu and creatives. Like, like we were mentioning it, like last week, you saw in pretty much either set, like one highlight where here's creatives doing really well, the next day here's Mutu doing really well. And we've seen that out of the past from them. Sometimes one or the other, sometimes both. But this is one where they just have to be. Like, they have to exist, they have to deal damage, but they don't have to get the kills, they don't have to have crazy positive slash lines. It does help that Mutu is 5-0-3, but it definitely wouldn't hurt if he had 2 deaths on top of that. Kratos isn't doing anything crazy except his damage numbers. Phoenix is on a champion that he can excel on. And it's the same thing we saw with Makoa, where it's just like, you can make him your other carry without him being the other carry.
I mean, and look at Rachao's highest damage on his team. And
that's a big yikes.
Then the Maeve. Tyra is the second lowest, only above Mitau right now. Aries is not able to find as much space and as much damage as he's normally able to, and he's getting basically zoned out by everyone, granted, on Natus Vincere. There's the Immortal. Knows that FRZ has that high damage potential. Lazy's going to dance around the corner here. Now Space Station with that fast cap. They do have 46% on the point here, but all the kills are coming up in favor of Blue. 4 streaks on their side. FRZ, he's going to dash out. Natus Vincere going to retake this point.
Rachao played it smart, though. He got 58% on the point before going down.
It's important.
That's the biggest issue is, SSG, like, they lose that fight, but they kind of win that fight at the same time. It depends on how they can retake it. Honestly, that comes down to, well, well, Ares is what I was going to say, and Freeze God.
Hello, goodbye.
Ares has not been impactful at all
no.
in this game. Freeze God has been doing his damn best, but there's only so much you can do as a single champion.
Well, an Ice Storm onto Lazy is only going to do so much. Spunky going down, though, that makes things a little bit interesting here for Natus Vincere. They're going to have to withstand the crossfire as well. Oh, that's a beautiful setback. Cancels out the butt end of the damage. Good job there from Phoenix to counter out Ares just a little bit. Overtime ticking away. They're going to forego this point here with 66%. Try to regroup, get Spunky back in this fight, but Phoenix answering on a Sadak. FRZ, he goes down as well. The wall is just there to block so much damage, and that's all they need. 3-0 Natus Vincere.
I mean, trying to do, again, whatever they can, but SSG, you're throwing everything you have at the wall, nothing sticking. You're trying really hard. Rachao, like you said, coming into this round was the top damage on his team. I wouldn't be surprised if he was still holding that, honestly. A little bit of damage there for the Tyra, but Ares has been very low impact. I mean, yeah, 56,000, very, very close behind, but still behind his main. And, well, Tyra's still way, way, way down the list. Way further than you've ever had to look for a Tyra on a damage chart.
This is a pretty similar start to last time around. Not quite as firm of a choke as Spacestation Gaming had last time around. But you're right. I mean, and, you know, maybe you've seen a little bit more of it than I have, but it seems like Creatives has just been diving on Ares time after time. Mutu is there to answer back with the immediate damage as well. And then you have Phoenix playing as aggressively as he's able to on this Atlas. It's seemingly the moment Ares pokes around the corner, makes himself seen, he's getting blown up by somebody.
And this is the thing, like, Creatives, again, he's not doing anything crazy. Like, he's got a good chunk of damage to him, but his slash line's not in sync. He's not carrying the game on his back. It is exactly what you said. I'm going to go to the back, and I don't care if I die. You're coming down with me. One way or another, at least one of you is going to go down with me. And trading that to a 4v5 is going to favor the Atlas and the Cassie with the Luminary boost.
Absolutely, you're not wrong, and that's exactly what they're going for in this case. Again, as I said last time, pretty similar to what we saw last round, where Natus Vincere didn't really get to the payload until right around now. That's a clean team fight from Spacestation Gaming with 45 seconds left, though. What's different is that by this time last round, Natus Vincere had that payload moving forward. Still top of the charts right now is Mutu. Breezill's high priority on the side of Natus Vincere. That could come into it as well. Dread Serpent, Seismic Crash, Overpower, Midnight, all of it is going to be affected by the resilience, and that's allowed Natus Vincere just to flex their wings a little bit.
Just trying to hold them back. This is essentially, they make a wall, they say don't pass here, and as long as you don't touch that payload again, we're perfectly fine. But that's also where you want to keep your eyes on Creatives. Like 6, 8, and 6, ignore the kills, ignore the damage. I want to see where he goes with his pathing, because Eevee is not only the best at getting you in overtime, but also the best at backdooring and touching a payload. Unfortunately, goes down right there.
That's true.
It looks like Lazy's clipped.
That's true. We whether we didn't know it at first or not, now we've learned to have to keep your eye on some of these backdoors, especially from the likes of the Eevee in this case. Sadak, Ares, Rachao, they're all holding down the payload right now. Phoenix is able to answer back, but overtime is ticking away. No room for error for Natus Vincere. Looks like Spacestation are going to buy point number 1.
Yeah, that should be able to close it out for him. And just as a side note, second chance for Alice is such a funny kind of ability where it's just like, I am out of here. I am making sure no one's going to touch me down. That's 13, 7, and 10
The
for
slash
Phoenix.
lines, I mean, it's the Phoenix and Mutu having an absurd game. Sadak doing relatively well given the circumstances on the opposite side, but it's like you said, 7 and 10 on creatives. He's doing enough though. I mean, he's still making his presence felt. Lazy, 6 and 6. I mean, again, he's doing enough. He's doing what he needs to. But it's Phoenix on these aggressive frontliners, especially the ones that are normally banned out. You have to consider that in picks and bans.
And we also have talked about Eevee. She does a lot of damage. In the right hands, we've seen her find kills and go 12 and 1, or maybe even more ridiculous slash lines, right? But the one thing in this game that you cannot ignore, that is very easy to overlook, is how much of a distraction factor you can be. If you're in the back screaming, hey, look at me, look at me, look at me, and 3 people look at you, you can be 7 and 10 all day. You are making success for your team.
Team will like that. The team won't like the crossfire coming up empty-handed here. The Exiles for Phoenix. Gonna get rid of FRZ right here. He has the shot to follow it up, and the setback, and the kill. Phoenix, the 1-2-3 punch onto FRZ, nets him that one. Mutu comes around for the assist onto Ares. No more damage for Spacestation. That's a retake and a half from Natus Vincere. They could end the game.
There's no way. There's just no way. I don't believe what I'm seeing.
That's an
here.
absurd rotation.
That does not happen. There's no reason. Like, this should be 3-2. A payload should be spawned for SSG right now, and it should be moving forward at least a little bit. They just take it back. Like, they don't do anything crazy. They just, no, that's ours. Get away.
I think Rachao had a bit of a moment there before having to throw it out. That's a huge through time and space. Could have gotten more, but does end up finding one. It's not going to matter, though. Natus Vincere, they clean up 3. And what a retake. What a fight that was. Na'Vi up 2-1.
That is a scary moment for SSG. Again, that point, like, to me, that's their objective. I'm looking at a 3-2. I'm like, okay, cool. We've got 3 more minutes.
Yep.
I'm preparing, like, some monologue because they have to capture this. And then they don't. Like, and
Step
it's
down
like,
off
it's
your
not
soapbox
even,
well,
it's not even like crazy
Right.
kills came out, like Phoenix gets a triple kill and blows everyone. It's like, no, Phoenix has a really good fight, but they just take it back.
Yeah.
They just say, get out of here.
it's one of those, like, you just stand
I'm
there
sorry,
hands
what?
up because there's such a, because
That meme
SSG
where it's
had
just
such like a firm, the little eye blink meme. The SSG had such a firm hold on the point there. I think it was a conglomeration of so many individual plays. The crossfire from Ares didn't really have too much of an impact. Towards the end, though, Rachao on the Inara tried to go in and get a touch. It was still only around 78%. So, maybe some little misplays there towards the end. But at the end of the day, it's 2 now in the win column for Na'Vi. Send it back to the desk and hear what they're thinking.
So game 1, they say, hey, Phoenix, don't beat us with Makoa, please. And he beats the hell out of Makoa. And then in game 3, they go, hey, Phoenix, seriously, we mean it this time. Don't beat us with Atlas. And he beats the hell out of them with Atlas.
I know. What's the deal with Phoenix today? He's just
I don't
going
know.
back on his word in every way, basically. He's almost, beating out creatives and damage there, and that's not common. Despite like how long range you can be effective with for Atlas, we don't see him necessarily top charts. He's a character that's very good at going in, blowing you up, and then kind of leaving and being out until the cooldowns are back up. So he's not always near the top of the damage charts, which again sort of just reinforces how impactful that performance was from Phoenix.
Really, really impressive stuff. The one that stood out to me is that final point push where Spacestation looks like they've got control, and then Phoenix just says, I'm sick of having this Maeve dashing around everywhere, walks up, 1-2-3s him, ends up soloing FRZ God all by himself, and from that point on, Na'Vi just had point control.
That's what happens with it. This character, this frontliner. A lot of frontliners in the cast can go in and kill somebody very well, but it's about getting themselves back out. They're very big, slow, easy to body block when you look at like Ashe and stuff like that, who has some of the best mobility in the frontline class, but Atlas just rewinds. He just runs away, basically, and there's nothing you can do about it, and it's part of the strength of this character is not a lot of the stuff that he does is counterable by, items. There's not a lot that, you can really play around, and it's very unique mechanics, rewinds, things like that. Stasis Field is a shield, but an uncounterable one that you can't wrecker it, you can't do anything to it, so again, that's part of the big reason Atlas is just so strong.
Man, Phoenix just does it. I mean, this is twice now that Spacestation has given Na'Vi a premier pick, that it's gone to Phoenix, and they've kind of hedged their bet that they could beat it, and they haven't been able to do so. And if I'm in Kresnik's shoes, I'm coaching Spacestation, that means that we're not giving him any of these picks the rest of the day, right? I mean, he's proven to us that
so.
We can't handle it.
It's going to be that type of day for Phoenix, and the small confident smirk, I think, after a game like that, 15 and 7, I think the KD was. When you factor in a little bit of damage amp as well, it's a lot of little numbers, but they still all add up to that fully charged 900. The charge just increases your accuracy of the shot, so you're still starting your 15% scale off an incredibly high number, one of the highest single instances of damage the frontline class, and almost anyone in the game has to offer, so very good synergy there. And again, the only thing that wasn't strong about that comp was their point pressure, which is kind of scary for Na'Vi because that's sort of their thing. That was the whole shtick on Splitstone Quarry.
Sure.
And they just threw it in the garbage can and said we can do something else.
Impressive stuff from them, so we'll have to see what Spacestation want to respond with. We go to Serpent Beach now, something that, if memory serves, a little bit more wide open potentially here, and we could see, the EV pick, we've been talking about it so much.
Yep.
It was there for Na'Vi last game, and I think that Atlas kind of steals the show, but certainly that EV pick had an impact.
Barring the super off tanks like the Makoa, like to some extent Khan, and of course Atlas, Eevee is the premier pick of this draft. She has so much mobility. We've been seeing, and I don't think any of these teams will go here. NIP used Grover here, and it was actually very, very effective. He's a character that is played when on that squad to be a little bit more of that hybrid damagey support. Think Pip, right? He can heal, but he can also do great damage if you build him exactly for that. Eevee is off the table. Khan is open first pick. I can't imagine SSG going any other type of way. This is the first time I think that we're getting to see this SSG get this first pick squad. So we'll have to see how Na'Vi sort of build their compositions to respond.
So I like the idea, though, from Spacestation. If they're not going to be willing to first pick the Eevee, you mentioned they will at times, but maybe they didn't feel like that was the right time for it. Keeping it out of Navi's hands seems to be a worthwhile ban in that spot. A lot of, there's been some Ashe bans there. They banned Barrack last game, but it seems like they're willing to give up some of those more premier frontliners in order to keep Eevee out of their hands.
Not only does this get Khan or get Sadak on his premier pick, which is probably this Khan, it also keeps Phoenix away from it. This is with Atlas gone and Makoa gone. This is next on the hit list for Phoenix. It's the next best thing. And it's also kind of the next best thing in the objective tier list of off tanks. So giving that to Phoenix, given how he's been playing today, not the best idea, not something they want to move back to. With Eevee off the board, getting this Cassie early is good because that's a very potent fallback for FRZ after Eevee is no longer in the equation.
Barrack is going to go the way of SSG this time around, and when you've got two frontliners already, you may as well pick a healer with good output, and Maldamba certainly fits that bill. So now Na'Vi has to figure out a way that they can chew through some of these frontliners. There's been a lot of Tyra so far today. We saw Vivian map 1 as well.
Yeah.
Still a couple options for them.
I think that's where they're probably going to go. I imagine... Mutu does play a lot of this Cassie, but one of the benefits of Cassie, and it looks like that's what Navi's leveraging here, is she is just like the turbo flex. Like, she could be like, if you have to have your off tank play at DPS, he's probably got a Cassie in the pool. She is so solid across the board for so long. That's kind of why she's that way. Everyone has kind of played Cassie at some point. She's one of the oldest characters in the game, and way back in the game, she was undefinitely the strongest character. Drybear's favorite, the golden child.
Oh, has to be the best, absolutely. A Leon selection actually comes through, though, this time around for SSG. Why are we seeing Leon here?
Easy to forget about, but still very, very potent. Has good matchups against Eevee's, Maves, Jirogos', things like that. So if you want to pick something like a Mave, it's good to just get off the table. Like I mentioned, the hit scan pool is very shallow. Leon has the best range of like the Vivian, Tyra, Leon conversation. Can still receive a nerf, but I think is still potent. You know what I mean? It's just an adjustment period type of nerf, and she's still in that period where people aren't really looking at her as much, but I think she's still just fine.
And then the Shaolin for Na'Vi as well. A couple of damage dealers we haven't seen yet. This one a little bit more wide open. You kind of want that long range. Shaolin can certainly provide that.
Shaolin actually has a pretty good, despite being relatively immobile, has a pretty decent matchup against these flankers. When you pick Explosive Arrow, you open yourself up, potential 1300 burst damage shot. Very, very potent against the low HP flanks.
That Shaolin may have to step up here for Na'Vi if they want to take a commanding 3-1 lead in this set. Let's throw it over to the casters, of course. We've got Gormizer and everyone's favorite dreamboat, Dolson.
I've got 2 casts today, so hopefully he's got so many more of those in his pocket because we've got this set. I'm on next set as well.
Frantically typing at his computer, being like other really nice, nice descriptors for people.
I was going to say, let's be honest. He's not doing anything on that computer other than a list of nice things to say about somebody, I think. Either way, it's game 4. It's my favorite slash line to look at. It's 2-1. Either this goes 3-1 or it's 2-2, and we got a real interesting set on our hands. Either way, it's Serpent Beach. I got the Ying pin on Gore. We get Ying in the game for a second time. Although I want to look at it, and I kind of want to hear your thoughts. Shaolin, Leon coming through. What do you think?
I like Shaolin. I think he's going to be fitting on this map. And it's just because you run recurve, as you see there, going to make you shoot a little faster. But primarily, there's a lot of places to get a stun with your Impaler arrow. So you'll be able to find maybe a little bit more lockdown for your team. Leon, I'm a little more on edge about because you saw he is still going to be running, well, the nerf.
Also,
overall.
it's FRZ on Leon.
Seconds.
It's FRZ on Leon and not on the Maeve, so that's a little bit of a switch up here this time around. Ares instead is going to be, of course, on the Maeve as a result. The daggers are good from him, but can't hit the last one. Creatives, though, his shots ring true. Ares, you go back to base. 48% for Natus Vincere, back to the tried and true game plan that they have. All right, now that I noticed that, the FRZ, Ares, a little bit of a role swap here. Does that surprise you?
Yeah, I mean, not just be like both of these players can play the champions they're on, and they could swap either one, and it still looks good. But in this scenario, when Freeze God has been having really good games on Maeve, you don't take him off of Maeve. You keep him going, and you let Ares kind of pilot this Leon. Unfortunately, it doesn't seem to be, well, no, just is not the case.
Well, it's been piloted right into the side of a mountain twice. Oh my, Spacestation Gaming, they have not been able to find any sort of footing on this one. Natus Vincere, they make it 1. Let's take a look at slash lines coming out of that. I'm not sure if, 0 kills across the board. I mean, only 6 kills in the game, all of them over to Na'Vi. We had questions about the Shaolin. Mutu's answered to a slash line of 3-0 and 3.
Mutu has not only been regularly successful on Shaolin, regularly successful in general, and Paladins as it seems to be, but there's also something that comes through, and this is going to be maybe a reach back even further, because there was a meta a long time ago. We'd call them the Bow Bros, and it's when you get Cassie, you get Shaolin on one team, you just win, and that's just how it kind of works. Right now, it's been a little more difficult, mainly because, you know, Cassie has been excellent. Shaolin's been a little more shaky, but like you said, Mutu is showcasing that it's going to work just as well, if not, maybe a little better.
It's a good manifest destiny from FRZ as well. And this is where you would expect Spacestation to be able to fight back, which is exactly what they're doing. A little bit of a defender's advantage, especially on this map. Resetting himself here as mid-tower, but this is getting very close to going in. This is the important corner that you have to look at getting rounded. That looked like an overpower. I should say it sounded like an overpower, but it was an unsuccessful overpower. The cooldown goes right back onto 30. No targets on that one, so now that's gone for the defensive stand here. Midnight Dread Serpent Dome Shield will be ready, as well as Heat Haze and Scout for Natus Vincere. It is all going to come down to whoever finds the first little bit of an engagement. And we see that so often. Whoever finds that first poke, finds that first kill, it tends to just go so heavily in their favor. Mutu is low. Right around the corner goes Ares daggers. 55 seconds left. Natus Vincere may choose to reset here.
I was just about to harp on Ares about not hitting daggers, then he hits the only ones that truly matter, follows it up with another kill onto the Ying. Even though he trades his life out for that, that might be the saving grace. It at least is going to buy him 15 seconds. This is going to be the big thing, though. What can they do with that time? They're looking to stagger out Lazy here, but Creatives is right behind them. They're going to continue this pressure. It's not a big enough push that Na'Vi can't touch. They're going to get overtime here. They still have some semblance of control on the round.
I definitely agree. 24 seconds left. 5 ults ready for Spacestation. They could defend here relatively easily. Na'Vi back to full strength. The shield rolling forward. 10 seconds left. This will likely be the last fight if Natus Vincere gets swept. Here comes the seismic crash. Does it find anyone? The Heat Haze, though, that answers back from Mutu to the tune of 1 kill. Both healers are down right now, as well as the front line. Phoenix is gone. Mutu, he's alive right now. As I said, no healers right now for either side, but the respawns will be coming in a lot faster from Spacestation Gaming. Midtown's going to be up and ready to start healing yet again with overtime in favor. Ares needs to stay alive here, but instead Spunky's back in the fight. Now 2 damage dealers are down for both sides. Long-range shots, they're good, but Freeze God doesn't find a kill just as of yet. He has to back around the corner. The Dread Serpent's up in this fight. Draws just a little bit of fear. That's a great one. Phoenix is just within an inch of his life core.
Not doing enough to be able to get rid of him, though. Lazy goes down finally, and that's going to give him some breathing room. They can get aggressive, get forward, and push down Phoenix.
And it looks like that's all she wrote. FRZ, he had a slow start to this game, but a hot finish towards the end. A double kill on the Leon, playing that positioning perfectly, hanging in the back line, pouring out some damage. That's an important defense from Spacestation Gaming. If that one goes through, things start to get pretty interesting here. I mean, look at that. The point fight was 0 kills across the board for Spacestation. And now you have FRZ 5-2-2. He was 0-1 or 0-2 previous, but now he's found, 4 or 5 kills without dying.
I want to say it's the same story we were pulling on, 2 weeks ago when they came in, where it was just like, man, FRZ God almost always performs.
Yep.
Ares, depending on the day, is kind of hit or miss. And SSG against a team that's below them, they don't need Ares to perform at that level. They don't need him to take that step forward. SSG playing someone like Na'Vi, they need Ares to have the same kind of performance, or at least similar. He needs to do a little more for this next round, and that can give him some control.
Well, already off the bat, the overpower is going to open so many doors here for Spacestation Gaming. Natus Vincere had such a firm grasp on the mid-fight last time, but no grasp at all on this one. All the kills are blue. It's a mirror image, but reversed this time around. Everyone's dead on Natus Vincere. Using the ultimates perfectly, the overpower, enlightenment, that buys just enough room for Spacestation Gaming to get on the point here.
Now they have control, 66%. The biggest issue is maybe a little easier to knock off the Barrack than you might on the Inara on this map, but I don't think it's going to be any easy feat at all when they come in like this. I mean, Lazy's almost immediately getting dunked on with damage. He has good healing behind him, but that's going to be, I think, the biggest thing to keep track of is how much Spunky has to look at Lazy.
Phoenix throws down the banner in the back line. Ares looking for a little bit of flank right now. He has some good targets if he's able to do it. Blocking out FRZ here. Overtime, though, for Spacestation Gaming. The Dome Shield's going to make Lazy very uncomfortable. The turret's doing so much damage, but the healing from Spunky, it's just a little bit better. Now Mitau comes in to provide some healing for his team as well. Mutu has to go down through the waterfall, getting chased by Sadak. It's a 1-for-1 right now. Make it a 2-for-1. Natus Vincere able to answer back. Sadak, though, kills are coming up left and right. Sadak needs to stay alive. FreezeGod does as well. He rounds the corner, finds Spunky. Now there's no more healing for Natus Vincere. Spacestation Gaming are in a good spot if FRZ is able to stay alive, but he's not. Natus Vincere on the point. Ares has to get a touch, but he's going to go down as a result, 96%. Natus Vincere, they may have taken this one from the jaws of defeat.
And that wall, that's the most painful wall in existence.
Oh, my heart.
You're a Barrack and you're trying your best, you're running, you're going, and then there's a wall.
There's a wall.
And then you just can't go through, you can't go over it, can't go around it, can't go through it, so he's stuck watching as Na'Vi just stand on the point, happy as can be. Like you said in that fight, if Sadak stays alive a little longer, if he gets that trade with FreezeGod making his trade on the other side, they can collapse in on that point. It makes a completely different engagement, but it's just that one lapse. That Khan's just not able to deal out enough damage to completely cope with everything. And that was that perfect showcase of where he does falter.
This is almost a mirror image of Splitstone Corey, where Spacestation Gaming had 90-something% on the point within an inch of capturing it, and then Natus Vincere with a seemingly ridiculous take back. They take the point, or maybe it was Stone Keep that we saw that. Either way, it's now the second or third time where we've seen Spacestation in firm control of the mid-fight, and then just fall a little bit short at the end. Natus Vincere, though, they're pushed back in their base. Spacestation Gaming are not attacking right now. They're just holding back Natus Vincere as far as they can.
And this is, again, it buys so much time. You can die here if you are SSG.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because the line of scrimmage moves slightly further forward. It takes so much time for Na'Vi to get these kills, then move forward after these kills, then push the payload. Like, there's just, you're compounding that minute that's left and making sure that it's going to be the toughest minute that Na'Vi have in any of these games.
Yep.
Because, again, like you said, you're fighting not only to try and tie the set up, but more or less just to stop Na'Vi from going up 3-1. I think if they go up 3-1, it's almost impossible to claw back.
That's why I love 2-1 score. That's why it's my favorite thing to watch. It's so indicative. At least if you look back at history, the way the set goes. Natus Vincere now, they're able to break the defensive stand from Space Station. Get back onto the payload with about 30 seconds left. Still plenty of time. We've seen some overtime pushes today from Natus Vincere. They looked very good the first time around trying to push before the Space Station defense held strong. 4 ultimates, everything but the Illusory Rift, everything but the Enlightenment on the opposite side. Healing has been good as well from Spunky up to this point. My Ying Pin, I think, giving him just a little bit of extra pressure. It is going to be an overtime push, though. No room for error right now if you're Natus Vincere. Look at this, the pocket healing coming through. Spunky falling right now. I think that spells a little bit of doom for Natus Vincere. No more healing across the board. If they're able to extend this fight out and stay alive, it could be good. Doesn't look like it's going to happen. Lazy has no help in his back pocket. Space Station Gaming, what an important pick that was. No one better. Spunky goes down, you win the defense, we're tied at 2.
I'm going to give him credit where credit's due. Like, FreezeGod is hitting, I think, every kill that he sees.
He started off so slow, too. So slow.
But Ares is finding important picks, or at least helping find important picks. Like, there are a lot of moments, well, like that's been happening in this game, and then a lot of moments where the opposite is happening, where Ares is able to come through and have a big impact. This is not one of them, but those have been several opportunities, and it's only been on the defense so far, which I think is the big issue. That's the glaring mistake, right, from SSG is you're 7-9, you're doing just fine. That's exactly what Creatives was doing yesterday. What you need to do is up the damage numbers and find a pick at the beginning of this round.
And the bounce back in general from Space Station, so awesome. Natus Vincere, they were on the point, a 6-kill, 0-death first take, and now Space Station Gaming almost positive across the board. FRZ God's kind of taking this one over. That's a beautiful overpower. Almost no one better except onto Creatives. Illusory Rift trying to answer back, but instead the kills are still blue. They're still doing so much damage right now.
Wow.
And Spunky going down. They're finding him yet again. It's tied up at 2, and Space Station Gaming, they're back on the point, but we've seen this story before, Gore. You cannot count out Natus Vincere.
That was a slaughter. That was no less than a slaughter that came through. I mean, Na'Vi,
I couldn't call the kills as fast as they were happening.
But now they're going to be able to come back in. This is, again, important. Their retakes. They've been doing it well all day. SSG are at 87%. This has been like a dooming number for them to be able to maintain control, and I think we're about to see why.
Here's the flank. Midnight's going to try to limit a little bit of that vision. It's going to do just that. FRZ got he rings true yet again. Mutu trying to find the kill onto Ares, but it doesn't work out. Dread Serpent, a little bit of a last-ditch effort here. Not going to work out as well as he assert dominance, so Phoenix has a little bit of life left in him. They're actually getting back onto the point here. All the kills are blue, but the ultimates, they're getting used by red. Phoenix is going to go down, and it looks like Space Station, they're going to capture point number 1.
And they're in the most dangerous portion of the game. Na'Vi have not had to defend, not in a while even, and not on this map specifically.
So and they can win.
You're carrying momentum. You force all the ults out of Na'Vi, you get that point. You can walk this in and win.
Yep. 5 streaks, 4 double-digit, 1 just 1 away. Space Station Gaming, after one of the slowest starts we've seen, have answered the phone. They've picked it up. They said, yes, we are still here. We are fighting back. 3-2 is where this slash line stands. You can tie up not only the series, but win the game in general here. Sadak finding Spunky yet again. That's a second big fight where Spunky has been picked off first. So now Natus Vincere in a losing fight. Look at those health bars. They're just melting. Sadak is now free and clear to get aggressive. Phoenix makes 2 in this one. Natus Vincere, they need to hold true because Space Station Gaming, they're pushing for the win.
Oh, it's definitely not working out too well. They get rid of Mitao, which should be a saving grace, but it doesn't seem to be. It's a 3-2v4 now as they get that last kill. It is just walking in.
Uh-oh. This is going to roll in. The payload is so close right now. The Midnight from Ares might just seal the deal here. It's only down to Phoenix, but the Dome Shield, that's going to buy some space. Not enough. Space Station Gaming, they take the win, and they tie up this set. Last time it was 4-1, Gore. So no matter which way you cut it, Space Station are doing better than the last time they played Na'Vi.
I mean, this is, again, like trudging through the mud at the very beginning of this. Like, I didn't know what SSG was doing. They didn't seem to know what they were doing. Like, the switch putting Ares on Maeve didn't seem to make sense. And then they got that defense, and it's like, okay, cool. Like, we're getting into the rhythm. Round 2, there's a little more fight. They still end up losing it, but they get another defense. They get a little more practice just making sure their comp works. And then they're like, all right. We know what to do. The stars align. Like they see the code in the Matrix and they just come through. Daggers are flying everywhere. Ares is starting to pick up kills. Freeze God is just indomitable. Like that was exactly what they needed.
I can breathe. This set, I mean, on paper, we were like, this one could go 7. And then, you kind of look at the history. Na'Vi has been so just almost surefire against SSG in the past. No matter which way you cut it, we're down to a best of 3 at this point. Whoever wins 2 more, they take the set. We got to send it back to the desk first.
Man, Space Station really hit the Jets. I mean, they were down, and then they really go into pop-off mode and end up taking this one in relative ease towards the back end.
Yeah, and it's part of the fun of a game of Paladins is that it's not as hard as like a MOBA, but you can have things that happen in the later stages of the game. Certain things start to fall off, stuff that is otherwise very difficult to play around, play against, and I think that's somewhat of what we saw going on here. There's not a ton to mitigate. One of the things that does not fall off and is as potent in the late game as it is in the early game is con overpower, being able to yoink somebody across the map and just hold them there in that death grip. That guaranteed pick is part of why he's such a potent character, but I think FRZ God on Leon 17-4 is a big story.
Yeah. Just under 140k player damage for FRZ God. I mean, this Leon pick, I was kind of surprised by it, but as you mentioned, people still think that she can be played. And clearly she can. I mean, when you're going to play it that way.
A big part of this style is that presence, that eminence. Eminence leverages the presence ability. There's a lot of loadout cards. There's just so much synergy there. And so you see when he pops this Q, this long-range laser beam shot, that right there scales in damage the further it goes. And a big part of the synergy that it used to have was if you hit one target and got the kill on that target, you're still able to get a full reset. So you're able to pop this ability off that's doing a ton of damage. It's giving you health every time you use it because of a loadout card. You don't even need to hit it. You literally just need to get the cooldown off to get that self-sustain. All that really changed was the amount of cooldown reduction you got for hitting the thing. So, but if you're still getting those kills, you still have that extremely low cooldown, just like you did in times past. 17 and 4. He's getting the kills, Aggro. He's getting these resets in these fights.
Easily. He was really all over the place. Unstoppable right there as we got close towards the end of the game. Impressive stuff from FRZ God. And now, if you're Na'Vi, I mean, you've had these opportunities where the games that you've won, you've gotten top-tier picks.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that Spacestation's letting them win, but they've set Na'Vi up for success in some ways. Now, if Spacestation just decide, let's not give him Makoa, let's not give him Atlas, what does Na'Vi do to adjust to try and win Game 5?
That one's tough, right? Because Leon is really... She's kind of a card up your sleeve, right? She's not a character that has had any type of real resounding impact. I think Akate for Virtus Pro is like maybe one of the only guys I can even remember picking the character since the nerf in the PPL, right? So she has not seen a lot of play. I don't think it's something they're overly prepared for having seen, and I think because of that and that type of performance, that's something you're not prepared for today. So that's something they need to be thinking about moving forward. And it's just one more thing to worry about with SSG.
Yeah, just like, you know, when it's these characters that were really, really popular for a long time, get a nerf, you don't see them, and then they come back and you're like, oh yeah, I forgot what this was like. You kind of go, what did we pick against this again?
Yeah.
Like, what did we do when she was really good? Because I think you have to go into the bank and try and find something.
Yeah, Leon, she's kind of tough to pick against. Relatively low mobility, relatively squishy for a damage dealer, but she just has that potent burst potential. The best turnaround 1v1 ultimate in the game.
Sure.
And it's one that you're cool to use in a solo scenario, right?
Sure.
It's designed, it can hit, 5 people, but you're cool to use it in the 1v1, get the kill, get 50% of it refunded to you. Very, very potent character, very, very fun. I love seeing her, and I hope she does come back.
And we might see it again. Why wouldn't you go back to it if you're Spacestation? Just a matter of what map that we're going to go to next and how well it fits with that draft. I think Na'Vi, though, if on the other side of the coin, as I said, Spacestation's kind of shown you a willingness to give you some top-tier characters. Yeah. I wonder if you can mess with the draft a little bit and kind of get them to cough up a Makoa or an Atlas here.
Yeah, that's where we might see Na'Vi start to make some of those types of adjustments. The thing is as potent as Phoenix has been today on those power picks, I think Sadak he's that caliber player as well.
Sure.
So I think they will be punished, and I think they might regret giving him that opportunity, but it might come to that, right? Space Station have already shown they're willing to take that gamble, and I think that's okay. I think Na'Vi are generally favored in this matchup, not by much, but I think the general population would favor them slightly. So that's why you're probably more likely to see Space Station take those risks, because they feel like it is, and that's kind of like the key to beating Na'Vi, I think. I think you have to take risks, and they have to pay off, because Na'Vi is just like this high-performing blue-chip stock, you know what I mean?
Right.
You know what you're going to get almost every single day. They don't really have bad days. If you have like a team like NIP or SSG taking risks, playing super aggressive, maybe playing some weirder stuff, that's when you start to see teams beat Na'Vi, but it's just about feeling comfortable enough to want to take that type of risk.
It's gonna have to be a risk for sure here as we get ready for game number 5. Na'Vi going to take away the Torvald right away. Spacestation not messing with the Makoa this time around. And it's all frontliners thus far. And I imagine with an Atlas ban as well here from Spacestation, it would be 4 frontliners.
Yeah, Atlas or Khan. What's the pick your poison here, Spacestation? And this is that risk. We could ban Barrack and they'll get Atlas, but we've seen how that goes. We've taken that risk, and SSG do not want to take it again. Khan will go to Phoenix. Ash has been banned away as well. Now Sadak is in a situation where I don't think he's loving whatever he gets.
Yeah, Barrack is the logical next one off the board, right, for Spacestation, but it's been Khan this whole time for SSG. I believe they played him 4 games in a row, so
they might have to go Barrack and Ara.
Just double up right away. And if that's the case, then is Na'Vi going back to Fernando if they need another frontliner?
They might, yeah. They might look to just kind of win this the way they won Stone Keep, right? Just realize it's serviceable, right? This Fernando Genos combination is serviceable. Lazy's playing it. He's going to understand his limitations, and they're going to win through other avenues. You can see SSG already into their bank time for the first two. These are critical ones. This is not a wildly different draft than what I think we're used to seeing, right? Seeing 4 front lines banned is not a new concept. And they are just going to stick with the Anar Cassie, not go for that Barrack at the onset, and I imagine Na'Vi will scoop it next.
Yeah, Navi's been a big fan of that Barrack so far, so Spacestation maybe left a little bit short on the frontliners, depending on what Na'Vi decide to do in this scenario. Is Brightmarsh another one of those maps where, I was going to say, EV flankers are usually popular?
Yeah, EV's super strong. Like I said, on a lot of maps, and the times when you don't see her picks are like those Jaguar Falls, when other stuff is just better. It's not because she's bad, there's just better options and stuff you're more likely to go to, but Freeze God has not been able to scoop the Eevee. I want to see him get on it at some point this set, so we can kind of put our money where our mouth is as a scene. I know you're new on this block.
That's
Woo!
right.
This is something I just wasn't thinking about today, but Ruckus is big for Sadak. He loves this character. It's been not super prevalent in the meta. This is maybe why you see them go Cassie earlier. Cassie's a very good matchup against Ruckus, so they want to make sure that they get the Predator before they can grab Ruckus.
Well, they get it. And Space Station, I mean, they just went with a character that hasn't been seeing a lot of play recently after some adjustments. Ruckus can kind of fit that same bill, right? You don't see him as much these days?
Yeah, Ruckus is very good at still kind of doing what he used to do, but really what that is just diving onto a squishy backline. A lot of times he'll probably die for it, but you can really, very, very confirm lock down your kill. Vivian might be a different story. She has so much damage, so much survival. She's basically like if Ruckus was a damage character in Paladins. She kind of does a lot of the same things. We call her Skinny Ruckus sometimes when she gets pulled through. She really, really can put out a ton of damage earlier on when she doesn't have a high level of Wrecker. That may be when Ruckus is able to get that kind of matchup going in his favor, but it's going to be close, especially with Genos damage amp. It's not going to be an easy road for Sadak, but he knew that picking this one.
Maeve being hovered right now, that's been a big pick for FRZ God in this set so far, and has the potential to maybe get on top of this Vivian or Genos and give them some trouble. But it's not paired with the Tyra that it was, earlier on.
Yeah.
Is this the draft where Maeve can work?
I don't know. I feels a little disconnected for me. For Na'Vi, I'm looking at Genos being able to amp these characters. They have Barrack, who's the best point tank to pair with Genos because he has a lower HP pool, so you're proportionally getting a little bit more, and it's about playing around it. Like Fernando, it was that self-sustain talent. For Barrack, it's whenever he rocket boots, he gets a shield. He has a lot of self-shielding. It's just about self-mitigation when you have Genos because you don't have that throughput. You have that bonus damage. Barrack has a very good gun to leverage that. A lot of Na'Vi's picks make sense together. SSG have Dombanar. Infallible point combination, right? Something you're absolutely looking to work off of, but that's it's almost like super good over here in this basket, and then everything else is in this other basket, right? And they're not really working together, and that's why I really want to give this one to Na'Vi.
Man, this is going to be a close one. Game 5 coming at you. It's Gormizer, and as we like to call him around the office, the Beast.
Do we? That's news to me, but I like it either way. I like being called the Beast. Kresnik with a smile as he walks on by. I was going to bring up giving Phoenix Con, but at some point you have to draw the line. When do you stop pointing out what you're giving over to Phoenix? Because anything seemingly...
Yeah, he has 5 champions that no matter what, he's going to be scary on. So,
do you think he's good at the game? Maybe that's it. Maybe at the end of the day,
you might be onto something.
He could be onto something. Of course, notably, Ruckus comes out this time. I know.
Ruckus.
I know. Sadak is a big fan of that one, and he's good here on Brightmarsh. He, Vivian and Ruckus sort of with a similar play style. I think this time around, he's going to take that high ground, look for a little bit of poke with the initial engagement. That's going the way of blue. But this is what I expect to see, this lazy Rachel matchup, both of them trying to get onto this point.
And honestly, that's exactly what you want out. This is where Ruckus needs to be. Sadak's going to have a little bit of trouble because he has a lot of people looking at him. But Muchu's going to be more on the ground. Muchu is going to be focusing on that Anar. You can see her health bar kind of steadily going down. And that gets scarier, honestly, as the game goes on. Right now, it shouldn't be too big of a threat. But if Rachel gets aggressive, it might be a huge threat. Him and Sadak trying to move in together at the same time could be big, but I think I think we're about to see maybe why Ruckus doesn't come through often.
Yeah, it's a little bit of a flank, but Lazy's able to stay alive through it. Instead, it's Mutu and Creatives, the two damage dealers, coming up big for Natus Vincere. Creatives is alive. He's making life tough. Now it's down to Rachao, but there's so many different angles the damage is coming in from. Mitau comes back into this fight, finds a kill, but Natus Vincere, they're the ones getting all the kills right now. But all that matters, Spacestation Gaming, they were fighting from the point there, taking a little bit of a page out of Natus Vincere's book. And while they did lose that fight, they still had 48%, only 33 for Natus Vincere.
Unfortunately, there's just not enough kills coming down for SSG, and I think that's the big thing. Like, what we're looking at, especially if Creatives continues 2-0-2, and Mutu's 2-0-3. Like, if you keep that up, like Mutu, the last time, or not Mutu, Creatives the last time he was playing Eevee was, 7-8, 7-9. Like, he was doing well, but he was just playing the game of, as long as I go down, you're coming down with me. If he's carrying too, this game is going to be very solidly a Na'Vi control game.
That Sadak has just not been able to make use of the space that he's buying. Earlier on, he tried to dive Lazy, didn't get the kill. This time he tries to dive Spunky and has to back out. FRZ and Creatives trade back 1-for-1, but it is 99% for Natus Vincere. Sadak only has his shield, maybe a sliver of life somewhere in there, but the shield is really all he has right now. Mutu, Phoenix, that makes 1 and 2 for Natus Vincere. That's a good seismic crash, buy some time. Rachao has to back out though. Ares drops, looks like Space Station Gaming. They tried it all, but Natus Vincere, they're the ones who win it.
Honestly, this feels like it's going to be a similar game to last map. Like, this feels like it's going to start out similarly. The only issue is that Bright Marsh Snowball is a little harder than Serpent Beach. And so if SSG don't pick up the slack fast enough, this will end up being a 3-1 turning into a 4-1, right? Like, you have to be able to not only take trades, but just maybe, like, knock down Na'Vi in one of these fights. A good Hexafire is literally game-changing in the right moments. Sadak has shown that he can do those in the past. I expect we're going to end up seeing them at least once this game.
Well, here's the first one. Mutu gets some damage, but ducks right around the corner. You called for a game-changing Hexafire. I wouldn't call that a game-changing Hexafire.
I would call it game-changing, but not the way they want.
Right, that's right.
It's definitely going to help out Na'Vi.
That's right. It buys this time around, though, but what he does buy is some space. That opens up the Cassie, that opens up Ares, and they actually find some kills here. So while the Hexafire was a little lackluster, the ensuing team fight, well, that was above and beyond. Space Station Gaming, they answer back in a big way, and this is where their defensive stand could really hold true. This is what we saw on Serpent Beach, where, they lose the point, win the ensuing team fight, and then force Natus Vincere back basically for the rest of the game. 1 minute and 10 seconds left, though. It's a short push if Natus Vincere are able to get back onto it, but Space Station Gaming, they're looking to hold. They're looking pretty good here. Creatives is going to try to break this stranglehold. It works out. Sadak and Ares both going down. Natus Vincere now with a little bit of space to move forward. Creatives is having himself a game so far on this Eevee.
And this is just so good. Like, just the comebacks so far that Na'Vi have had, like, they will get pushed back by SSG, kind of like strong-armed by SSG, pushed as far back as they can, and they just kind of take it on the chin. They're like, okay, you know what? Like, we'll handle this. Like, we'll just we'll come in, we'll do our business, and we'll keep moving forward. And that's the way, like, that's the reason they were able to get a world championship, right? It's the reason they've been able to get onto the world stage 2 HRXs in a row, like 2 championships in a row. They are consistent and they're elastic. They'll kind of take everything with that grain of salt, recognizing that, you know what, we still have to work to get here. And they are showcasing what that work puts out.
That's an important flank here from Ares. Gets deep into the back line. Everyone turns around to look for him, and FRZ got his sights are still set on the side of Natus Vincere. That's 3 kills now for the boys in red. Make it 4 to round this one out. Gore, you were right. It's the same thing we saw on Serpent Beach where Natus Vincere claw themselves back. They win these mid-fights, but then a strong defensive stand from SSG nets them another point. If you weren't convinced yet that this is an incredibly close matchup, I don't know what to tell you, because this is an incredibly close matchup. Phoenix on this con, you have to look at him, the space he's able to create. Same with Makoa, same with Atlas. It's not as overwhelming as it's been in previous games. 5-3 and 9, still very, very good. But not, blowing this game out of the water as he did in the past.
The one thing that I harped on last game. Like Aries switching onto the Mave.
Yeah.
Something Kresnik pointed out is that Aries has always been the Mave player for this
True.
team. It's just that Freeze God also happens to be really good at Mave and has been doing it a little more recently. But I think their composition right now, it's the same concept. Everything that's going to come through. And now Aries is warmed up. I think they might be able to pick it up here.
Well, they threw everything at Phoenix, including the damage, including a death. So it's a 4v5. Natus Vincere maybe needing to fight back. FRZ God catches a blast from the side, and Mutu's not really able to get up and get forward on this Vivian either, and you need to be able just to rain down from above, and he's not been able to get comfortable here in this mid-fight. Spacestation Gaming with 54% on the point now, just on the back of getting rid of Phoenix. That shows you how important Phoenix is to this Natus Vincere lineup. Creatives goes into the ice block. This is an important duel, him versus Aries. This one comes out ahead just slightly for Creatives. Sadak is the next one to go down.
And unfortunately, that's going to be Mutu getting the kill, which means Mutu can start pressing forward, which means Rachao can't stand on that point as much as he wanted to. But 78% is a very big pickup. 2 kills right there for SSG means they can at least stabilize on the side of Na'Vi. But again, Hexafire is ready. They're going to be able to come in. And if you hit it, if it connects, it is such a big ult. And again, there are 3 players that come to mind when I think Phoenix, or when I think Ruckus.
Yeah, Ruckus.
One's Phoenix, one's Rubu, and the other one has to be Sadak. And he's one that can make the plays. It's just whether or not he can find himself in a good spot.
Well, we're just now tied in the middle. Creatives throws out the Ice Storm, buys a kill onto Sadak to the Hexafire. It's not going to happen this time around. He's dead. He can't use it. 96% for Natus Vincere. Rachao goes down as well. Aries answers back onto Mutu, but they don't really have that frontline presence. The Dread Serpent as well. That's good from Spacestation Gaming, but can they net any kills on the back end of it? Instead, Creatives, he gets out of it. He finds the kills. Lazy gets Aries. No more damage from Spacestation Gaming. And Natus Vincere yet again claw back a mid-fight.
I've seen this story before. This is Serpent Beach.
You know when you're reading a book and you get a little distracted and you read the same paragraph 6 times in a row?
Yeah.
This is that brought into Paladins.
Well, it's just SSG, they have a comp where they know what they're doing. This is, again, I would argue that the only thing to make either of these teams more themselves would be if Spunky was on Maldamba instead of Genos, but it's a very Na'Vi draft, it's a very SSG draft, and the meta on paper favors Na'Vi's draft in this circumstance, but you have to give that factor to comfort and just the way they've been playing the last couple of games for SSG. If Freeze God continues on this tear, if Aries switches up from going even, maybe slightly negative at this point, to finding a positive splash line, finding a lot more damage and a little more control. And that's what they did last round, or last game. That's what they did in round 3. That's what I expect to see in round 3 here. They're just kind of biding their time and learning.
We have to remember that what won them, and this is much to your point, not disagreeing at all, but what really won them that Serpent Beach game was Aries going huge on Leon.
Yeah.
And FRZ, or it was wrapped around FRZ on the Leon and Aries on this Mave. They just started going crazy. And of course, the rest of Spacestation Gaming, the way that they were playing, the frontliners, the healer, they were all allowing them to do that. We haven't seen the same pop-off that we saw on Serpent Beach. Natus Vincere have just really been controlling this one. This is a big defense. 3-1 is so different from 2-2. They need to hold this one off. FRZ is 11-6, but Aries just not having the same impact. Top damage in the game goes red for the rest of the 4. That goes blue. Creatives able to blink in, get a little bit of damage here. But this is on a knife edge right now. Spacestation Gaming, they can't afford to lose too many. FRZ makes 1. Creatives goes right into the ice block. The Dread Serpent as well comes through, but this is a great spot for Mutu. Could be free firing here from the back line. The respawns are going to come up in favor of red. Sadak's getting melted away right now. Creatives blinks in. He has a double now on this Eevee. The seismic crash comes through, but so does Through Time and Space. Doesn't find any just as of yet, Gord.
And the shots are just coming in. They're trying to fight through the window, and it's working out better for Na'Vi than it is for SSG. A couple of kills are going their way, and this payload's still moving.
Yeah, watch out. Rachao is not there. He can't contest. There's 3 down now. Sadak has to stay alive. He doesn't do it. And Natus Vincere, they pull themselves within 1 of taking game 5.
Now, there was something on the screen before that fight started. That was the slash lines of the damage charts. And if anyone in chat knows what was wrong with it, they can remember right now. It's the time to go forward. It's like a game show, right? I'll give you the points. I don't really have the ability to give any points, but you'll get points in my heart. Either way, when we come back...
That's what we're all fighting for.
And we look at those, there is one exceedingly glaring issue. Sadak is 0-12 in 10th. He has less damage than the Genos. Spunky is putting out more than a Ruckus right now. If that changes, just slightly, if he just gets 2 kills this round, then SSG can win. And it is all coming down to this Ruckus right.
Needs to find some space, needs to find anything. The assists even. Just not able to find anything, right? The Hexafire could be in a good spot right here if he wants to use it. He's getting so aggressive. There's the Hexafire. So much damage comes through, but Phoenix is able to dance around the backside and clean up Sadak, so he melts some health bars, but he doesn't get any kills. Phoenix is taking this one over. Fast cap for Space Station Gaming got them 39%, but Phoenix now with the overpower. That buys 3. Oh no, the roll back in, but FRZ, he finds death nonetheless. It's inevitable, and Natus Vincere, they counteract everything Space Station through, and they're on the point looking for the win.
Now the shots are going to be good, but against Sadak, the Hexafire's done. He hasn't been putting out enough damage to make this pick feel warranted right now. And when you're looking at it, I mean, line to line, Phoenix on the other side, the 5 streak right now, but he has been controlling and domineering for his team. It's 96% for Na'Vi, and they're zoning out SSG.
Well, if there's any time for Sadak to have his immediate impact, it's now. There's his first kill in the game, but it's the only kill they have. Creatives is going huge on this Eevee. Lazy rounds things out. Space Station Gaming are depleted, and Natus Vincere, they get win number 3 in a convincing game number 5.
I'm going to call that one a rare miss from Sadak. Normally very, very stable for this team. Not often do you see someone go through, I guess he ended the game with 1 kill, but it normally is a little more impactful from him. So that's a very rare performance, but it's impactful nonetheless. It works out wonderfully for Na'Vi, and I mean on Ruckus. That's one of the stable champions we've seen him perform well on. You can kind of see in his face. He knows. He knows.
At this point. He absolutely knows.
He feels it. And so next game, I think that's where they're going to look to try to shape things up.
I mean, that's, at the end of the day, I mean, you know, the focus was probably largely on this Ruckus, knocking him down. But at the end of the day, he knows. He knows that one would have been so different if the Ruckus had found anything. I mean, the Hexafires were good. They sort of opened the doors, but good is sort of maybe, that's just a filler word.
It
because
feels like an overstatement.
Right,
too.
it might be.
All right.
I mean, the last one had so much potential. The last one we saw where you're just melting away at the Na'Vi health bars, and then Phoenix wraps around. It's like they're running away from the Hexafires, but still returning damage, and then just killing him. One person kind of steps out and just finds the final pick. But what matters is it's 3-2 Na'Vi. They're on set point. SSG, they need to answer back.
The Ruckus pick falls flat.
It's the new Terminus. This is the map that he picked it on too. He tried to
really?
run Terminus here, trying to figure it out, man. Because like that tank pool gets banned out so heavily. There's not enough goodness to go around. Not enough people love Fernando nowadays, and Sadak is a guy who wants to Ruckus. He wants to con. He wants to get in there and take over the game and make things happen. Fernando is just not the character that's going to support that. So he's trying to make other things work, and I respect that. But this one falling a little bit short.
Yeah, now, I mean, Space Station, they've got a map pick. They can get the first pick. They can worry a little bit less about getting that entire tank pool banned out. But, man, now you're like, well, we got to take our frontliners early because Na'Vi has identified a potential weakness where if all the frontliners are off the table, where is Sadak going to go? They would pay to have him back on the Ruckus, I imagine.
Yeah, it's a struggle for them. Creatives goes big on Eevee. I think he's pretty close to just be popping off at this point. And the big thing about this specifically that I want to talk about is the fact that I still stand by this isn't his first pick. He's playing this, I think, to make sure FRZ doesn't get it. And because of that, I think it's that much more important that he's having this type of performance. To be able to like do this with your second or third string character is very, very scary proposition. Kind of like what happened with Leon. It's like, that's not FRZ's first pick, but I mean, my God, if that's something we have to worry about, that's bad for us. Same story with Eevee and Creatives.
Absolutely. Normally you're just thinking of it as addition by subtraction, but now you've got the subtraction and an addition of your own that's making it look really good here for Na'Vi. In Space Station, I mean, do you try and go to a map where it doesn't matter so much if you don't get your top frontline picks? Do you try and just pick frontliners right away? I mean, there are a couple options that you have.
Yeah, the problem is a lot of maps are, pretty much all maps, this is an objective game, controlling the space. A lot of times those front lines are so staple, so core to those strategies that it can be very difficult to build around not having them. The closest thing we've seen to that today is probably the game that when Na'Vi had Fernando with their Genos and things like that, just winning the game through other avenues. And sometimes maybe, and we've seen both teams, to be fair, struggle, right? Phoenix, like, he didn't really look that great when he was on an R, right? It's just not a character that supports their style and what they typically like to do. So, this is the last chance for Spacestation, and they have to find a way to get Sadak somewhere comfortable.
Man, it's gonna be a lot of fun to see if they can bounce back from that. It's gonna be the Shattered Desert here that Spacestation Gaming go to, and they're gonna lead with the Torvald ban. No surprise, see Na'Vi immediately respond with Makoa. Spacestation themselves take away the Atlas. Is this a way to try and say, don't ban a frontliner here?
I'm not sure. I mean, I would have thought, if anything, as first pick, because I think Sadak does have a very good Atlas. Baiting them into, giving me Khan or giving me Atlas at this point in the game. But it's going to be pretty standard, almost the same types of bans that we saw last game. But this time it's SSG that does get the Khan.
Yep.
And this is the difference. Na'Vi are comfortable going to the Anar Barrack, and Space Station, we're not.
Yeah, exactly. This is exactly where Na'Vi should be, I think. But this does open up that EV for FRZ God this time around. The Mave has fallen off a little bit in effectiveness as Na'Vi have adjusted. Maybe that EV getting into his hands can make up the difference on what Space Station go as their secondary front line.
And this is now just on Na'Vi to be able to pick a backline that's capable of dealing with this. I think they have a decent comp, like double point front line. The way that Shattered Desert is played, there's not a lot of cover, right? So your cover is your teammates. You're really trying to be near them and be in a place where you can get help. And it almost kind of tells the story here. They go to they're like, oh, EV's open, time to. Hang on a second.
Wait a minute.
They might just go, they're probably now thinking about what are Na'Vi going to pick to try and deal with our EV. Tyra's a good answer. You keep vision on the EV at almost all times, and everyone does more damage to her. So they pick away all of the damage amp. I don't know if Na'Vi will go to EV now because of that stuff. They've really picked and set themselves up to get an EV later. I'm almost smelling a Shaolin here because I think he's one of the few answers left in terms of just having the burst damage to be able to deal with EV. Cassie's another good option. Cassie and EV, or Cassie Sha might be where Na'Vi go.
Certainly an option for them. They did take the Shaolin a little bit earlier on, but don't know. I can't remember if that ended up being successful for them or not, but certainly can try and go back to that selection if they want to, but they might not be discouraged by what they're seeing from SSG here. EV still being hovered as an option, but I mean, you don't want to get Space Station in their comfort zone. You kind of want to keep them off balance.
Sure,
you
pros and cons.
Yeah, you did that to them pretty well last game, so maybe just even though it isn't the best pick because of what Space Station has, keeping it out of FRZ God's hand is a good idea.
But, pros and cons in every situation. The pros, you keep it away from freeze, like you said. Cons is you do have to play it into that stuff. You have to play it into Genos Tyra, which is less than ideal, but it's fine. And, I always respect that about SSG. If they can run something like that back after it falls flat on its face, that's the cheeky man right there that's going to be piloting it. And that's where you can kind of just say, it didn't work this game for these reasons. I think it can for the... And, they do have a lot of trust in Sadak. They've stripped his trust away in terms of getting Terminus when he's kind of saying this is time for Terminus. This is make or break. If he loses hard here with Ruckus, he's probably going to lose Ruckus privileges as well.
Yeah, this is definitely the make or break, not only for the set, basically, for Space Station Gaming, but for Sadak's Ruckus for this foreseeable future. Do you think it was just a circumstances thing that led him to go 1-11, or?
A little bit. I think Na'Vi had a way better draft than them. Great matchups as well, stuff like that. But I think this is a much better draft from SSG. This should be a good game.
Man, this one, it's all on the line now for Space Station Gaming. They really want to take this victory over Na'Vi and try and lock themselves up for the 2 seed later on today. Let's throw it over to the casters. It's Gormizer and the Michael Jordan of casting, Dave Olson.
Now that's just unfair. That's unfair. It's all dead. I mean, it is. You
can tell he's reaching deeper in his pocket for it, though.
It is 2-3, which is, that's Jordan.
Yeah.
The set is at 2-3. Apparently, I'm Jordan. I mean, again, that I have to live up to the hype now, which I hope I've done.
So tell me, what was it like casting with Bugs Bunny?
One of the greatest movies of all time, by the way.
I love Space Jam so much.
What a great game it is. Do you agree with what the desk was saying in that they go back to Ruckus for Sadak, but their comp around him looks a little bit better this time around.
And the biggest downside is there's a Cassie on the other side, which is going to eat through him, kind of like a hot knife through butter. But that's round 2, round 3, potentially round 4 if they make it that far. What you're going to be looking at right now is the fact that, again, it was a rare miss for Sadak to have that bad of a game on Ruckus, and this is the trust to go back and have that performance, and I think it's going to pay off.
And Aries back on the Tyra as well. That's been such a power pick for him. We haven't seen it quite as much up to this point. There's the kill. No deaths. He finds kill before death this time around in Spacestation Gaming. They're on the point. Remember, do or die. 3-2 is where we stand. Spacestation have to win this one in order to extend the set. Keeps their hope for second seed in the MSI alive. Natus Vincere. They need to get back onto it. Right now, the health bars are low. Lazy's catching so much damage, but things have sort of leveled out. Only a couple kills up to this point. 60% for Spacestation Gaming is what you have to look at. Sadak with a little bit of a cheeky flank here on the Ruckus could catch some Natus Vincere members by surprise.
Couple of good shots, and really just looking at specifically the fact that Sadak, he's not gone for dashes, he's gone for rockets. He's going to be able to run rocket barrage here, and it's just 1,500 damage every few seconds that he's going to be able to hit. I mean, you can see 4 seconds, and it's a burst, and it's a burst, and it's a burst. If he can keep that up and kind of apply that pressure maybe to an Eevee, maybe to a Maldamba, but even to the front lines, it just kind of has to keep Na'Vi on their toes and maybe even push back a little more.
Who is controlling the attention of so many people, even buys out the Ice Storms. Creatives trades out his life for Sadak here in this case. I'm not sure if that's going to be worth it at the end of the day. What's important, though, is Natus Vincere able to answer back, and they've been fighting from the point, so that percentage lead is now completely gone for Spacestation Gaming, even overtaken. This needs to be a good crossfire from Aries. Buys some space. No kills just as of yet. In and out goes FRZ, gets the touch, but they need to get there, and they need to stay, and they need to win the fight on top of it. Getting rid of Lazy, though, Gore, that's a huge start.
Unfortunately, right now, Sadak doesn't have his shield up. It's going to be 4 seconds until he has that, so the pressure is on, and the timing is playing against him. But Ruchao's come back, Mitchell's here, Aries is here, and they get 3 kills all on top of that.
Well, those are tense moments for Spacestation Gaming. They could have lost that, and then you're fighting from behind for the rest of this game. FRZ back on the Mave this time around. His shots are good. And Natus Vincere, and getting rid of Spunky at that. So this buys even more time for this payload to move forward. And this is a map-shattered desert where once you really round this final corner, this payload can move very quickly downhill.
I mean, it is, as you can see with the base, pretty wide open.
Yeah.
Very easy to see where people are coming from, where they're going to go. Not a lot of cover for the defenders. You can kind of bounce and peek inside the door, but where the payload is right now, Na'Vi don't want to do that. They need to be a little more forward pressing, and they just can't get up there. They want to try to, but I mean, SSG, again,
there's a
offensive line.
Right, and that's what they're looking for. The wall blocks off a lot of that Hexafire. Well played by Phoenix there, but Aries, he puts the mark on him. That's a good stun, but there's no follow-up damage just as of yet. That's an answer back. Phoenix forced to dock. There's the Dread Serpent up onto the high ground as well. Through time and space, that snipes off Mutu. Spacestation Gaming, they're only down 1. Natus Vincere, they're down 2 in this case. No more kills coming out. Ruchao falls as well. It looks like Natus Vincere, they bought themselves a defensive stand, and it could not have come sooner.
And this is an awkward map, not just because of the shapes and sizes and all the little bibs and bobs on the sides and the pathways, but also just how far, like, it's decently far to get back to the payload, but not so far that it's like, Split Stone Quarry or like Timbermill. Like, it's in that weird in-between. And there's also, again, so many avenues that you can go through on either side to either find a defense, to find some sort of aggressive line back to the payload. So SSG are going to be able to get back, but they don't have a grip yet, right? This is just trying to get back around and control this payload.
Well, this is where Sadak will love to call home. Inheriting that high ground, the defense is now pushed so far back. It's very low. Healing from Genos comes in, though. FRZ, he opens with the first. Lazy has to stay alive, or else nobody, only squishy targets will be able to contest Creatives. The Ice Storm just buys some space. Spacestation Gaming have to back off. 15 seconds left. That's an important kill, but now Lazy is down as well. No frontliners left. Spunky, though, is coming up huge. The rest of Natus Vincere, they don't need front lines. We have the damage. 8 seconds left, and it looks like Spacestation Gaming are not going to have a shot at this one.
3, 2, 1.
There they
go.
I just wanted to make sure.
There might have been something.
I have a point I want to dive into, and I was like, I don't want to start this and then have like some overtime cut me off. Cheeky overtime.
Yeah, right. That happens too often. It's like, this is over. Oh, wait, there's an overtime.
Once again, Phoenix is on an O, and Lazy's on Barrack. And again, It makes sense to me. I would actually argue with the way things have shifted through buffs, changes, whatever, Barrick has become, in my mind, inarguably the better point tank than Anara. He survives a little better, he has more control, and can apply more damage
Now, I
just
think
all around.
It's the addition of Anara, I think, that makes it interesting. If it were like Barrick, Khan, you know, lazy 100%. It's the fact that instead of being on his tried and true Anara, now he's playing the Barrick. But I definitely agree with you in that aspect. And this one is so close. No slash lines really jumping out. Creatives has been the big answer for Natus Vincere. Overpower opens this one up. Looks like he got a target. The cooldown is back to 0. Lazy is the one that he was going for. So that starts things off very well here for Spacestation Gaming. An early 9% for Natus Vincere, but the overpower, that buys them just enough room for Spacestation Gaming. They get on the point. They won the last midpoint. Natus Vincere were able to answer back on the defensive end, but the overpower is what you look at here. That's the only thing used, and that's what buys Spacestation 57%.
I mean, this mid fight is still just sitting handily. Like, nobody on Na'Vi is near the point. You got to get up there at least to start. Lazy should be able to come in and touch down, but 75% before anything happens, and let alone the fact that it looks like SSG are looking to find a kill. Unless Sadat goes down right there, they might have to back off, but it's 93-12. Even if with a kill, you still don't have enough pressure on Na'Vi.
That's a page out of Navi's book. Let's fight from the point, and even if we lose, which they do, all the kills for Natus Vincere right now, even if you lose, they're basically fighting from 0 back up to 93. This is a much more checkerboardy damage chart from what we saw last game, where it was essentially one member of Space Station and then a block of 4 for Natus Vincere. So a much better game, but they need to win this point. You haven't seen their hand on defense just as of yet, but a healer killing off FRZ that's the wrong sort of start. Mitao and Rachao, that's so important for Space Station Gaming. He's so low, FRZ is. Phoenix is just getting blasted away. The Void Grip is huge. No kill just yet, but the Hunter's Mark could spell the end here for Phoenix. Spunky doing a beautiful job of topping off that health bar, buying him just enough time. Sadak with a little bit of a flank. That drops Phoenix. Overtime getting reset. Both teams have 99. Natus Vincere, they're not in a period, or a point, I should say, to contest it. That makes it 2-1.
There was one point you could see, and it's not even anything bad about Ares. It's just he threw out his firebomb, and if it lands right where he was trying to get it to, Phoenix burns down. They capture that 10, 15 seconds earlier. They have a little bit of time earlier at the push with no response from Na'Vi. Bounces off the statue. That's an unfortunate scenario, but he still gets the kill. They still get the point, so it's not the end of the world for them. But it allowed, this to happen, where Na'Vi were able to kind of recoup at least a little bit, 2 members being able to respawn and come back for a fight.
FRZ is going huge right now. He has 3. Ares adds an extra 1. And that all started with a Na'Vi initiation. And Space Station Gaming, they weather the Dread Serpent and come out on top. And now they're in control. Natus Vincere are respawning from the back of their base. The positional advantage going over to Space Station. This is the overpower onto Creatives. He's been the saving grace for Natus Vincere this time around. And now he's out of it. Freeze God going toe-to-toe right now with Lazy on this Barrack. Dashing around behind the shield. All the damages for Blue. Ares is going to clean that one up. Now you have a damage dealer, a frontline, and a healer. That's all you got if you're Na'Vi right now. The Hexafire from the high ground could push this one in. Creatives is back, though. He helps. He drops Ares. And now Space Station Gaming, they got to think hard about what they want to use.
They're all spread out, too. They lost one source of damage in, but it's not stopping Freeze God from dealing the damage. He's still going to be running through. A couple of daggers miss right there, and the healing comes on to Creatives. That shot, that matchup, you highlighted it at the beginning. I think it's still going to be the highlight coming through. It's just, where does this Eevee go? Where does this Mave go? And how much impact they have both had on this game. If they can come back in, it's going to be strong. But, I mean, SSG, you can see them trying to figure this one out, trying to crack the shell that is Na'Vi.
That's right. All teams, only the overpower from Space Station. This is within an inch of going in. One team is going to have to find a pick here. 30 seconds left. Creatives gets aggressive, finds some chunk damage. Ares is so low, he has to back off and get some healing now from Mitao. But it's a little bit front-loaded if you're on the Genos. You need to get that mark on him. So low is the con on the side of Space Station Gaming. Both teams playing so carefully right now. Sadak does not want to poke too far around this corner. 14 seconds left. If either team gets wiped, that's a point for either side. Space Station Gaming with a bit of an advantage right now. They're dashing around the corner. Lazy gets low. Creatives with the blink in, but doesn't find any damage. Rachao is so low, the shield blocks off so much of it. Overtime is going to begin. No kills just yet.
just doing whatever they can, a little bit more damage. Hexafire is here, but it's not going to be there for Sadak.
Wow.
They get melted one by one by one by one by...
One.
There it is.
That's 2-2. Oh my, I need an aspirin. Both these teams are just, it's so close. It's so close. It's
so
balancing
much.
on a knife edge. At the end there, Na'Vi was, I mean, that was an inch from going in for Space Station Gaming. Na'Vi just kind of beckoning them into their base almost. They were saying, yeah, come in, all right. You know, you guys got the high ground. Where you're fighting downhill, we have to kind of shoot up.
Yeah.
And it's so much been down to whether FRZ is the one popping off in these fights or Creatives is the one who's popping off in these fights. This initial push, that was all FRZ. Triple kill for him there. But this is a much more comfortable Creatives. 9-6, not the greatest slash line, but top damage in the game. And then Lazy, of course, on the Barrack rounds out the top two. Tyra, Maeve are the next two, but this is an important mid-fight. 5 ultimate strong for both sides. That's the overpower again onto Lazy. That bot Space Station Gaming the last point could do the same here.
And honestly, I think it's also worth highlighting a rare 2-6, now 2-7 there for Mutu.
Yeah.
Not doing anywhere near as well on the Cassies we've seen in the past, and it's just control coming down from SSG. They have his number if you are Maeve, and they are locking him down. They are flanking around, and it's the Sadak FRZ combo that is just stopping, I think, a lot of aggression on the sides from Na'Vi. They can still run down mid, but that's almost a death sentence.
Looks like the Dread Serpent went onto a Chow. It does, but there's no kill just yet. Sadak is low as well. Creatives has to find an advantage for his team. 87% is where Space Stations stand. 20% over on the side of Natus Vincere. The Ice Storm comes through, but Creatives is so low, he doesn't get into the Ice Block either. Ares opens this one up for Space Station Gaming. Phoenix dancing around in the Firebomb through time and space, doesn't connect. There's only one kill in this one. The Seismic Crash isn't able to come through. FRZ God finds the kill. Space Station Gaming, they have 2. Natus Vincere, they have 0. FRZ on the Maeve. He's coming up big, and that's going to be 3 points for Space Station Gaming.
It's 3 letters, 3 kills all the time. 10, 5, and 14. FRZ is, I don't want to say winning the game for them, but he is confirming all the kills. 10, 5, 14, 10, 5, 16 there for Ares as well. You can see the
5
impact.
is the number. That's
And
the death number.
The death number. Unless you're Matau, he has to ruin it. But Sadak, again, shout-outs to him because nothing game-changing, right?
Right.
Nothing has been blowing my mind. I don't think, man,
This is a
Ruckus
bounce
is
back,
winning him
though.
the game. It's just,
Oh
cool.
my God.
This is what he was wanting to do last game. He just wanted to exist, to have a performance where he could find some kills. Yeah, he might die in the process, but he's setting up his team for success.
This is the duel you have to win if you're FRZ. The Chow likely falling. You have to win against Creatives. The Ice Block is now used. The Blink, oh, beautiful! Stuns him up. Commander's grab from her Chow stops Creatives from going anywhere. And FRZ, he's dashing in, plugging away a little bit of damage, but Lazy is there, especially with that Barrack Shield, to stall things out. 1.5 minutes left. This is where Space Station have come up short. They're pushing for the win. They're pushing to tie this series, but they haven't been able to do it just yet. 3 mid-fights, 2 defenses for Natus Vincere. We're down to 1. Either we're looking at 3-3 in the set, or we're looking at 3-3 in the game here with 1 minute and 15 seconds left.
Plenty of time on the clock for them to push forward. Plenty of time for them to dance around this objective. They've been fighting around here forever, and that's going to be another overpower. That's going to be a dead Phoenix, and that makes this a 4v5. This is going to be a very, very one-sided fight if they can continue that amount of
This
pressure.
is where you get aggressive if you're Space Station. FRZ, he has to stay alive. He has 140 health. Mutu finds the final shot, nearly getting out alive. Lazy with the bowling ball buys him a little bit of time, but now it's Ares' turn to go huge. He has 2. Sadak finds 1 onto Spunky. Mutu's low. This payload's getting contested right now. Phoenix is still alive, but he's going to go down. Space Station are going to win, and we're tied at 3.
You called it. FRZ needed to go big. He died. Ares is like, all right, it's my time. The spotlight is shifted.
Woo!
I can step forward into the light on this Tyra and remind people, again, such a contrast to what we saw, in game 1 from that Tyra, like game 2 from that Tyra. Like, he did not have an impact early on. This time around, finding those 3 kills, melting people, a good crossfire. Ares comes through. Like, the entire team stepped up that one. They felt the pressure, and, well,
That's got to
matched it.
be a huge weight off Sadak's back. I think you have a, I'm sorry, but horrible game on Ruckus. You go 1-12, and then coming back again. I mean, the kills, it was Ares, it was FRZ, of course, what you would expect, but set up so heavily, so many times. Sadak just loving that high ground towards the end of those pushes. We got a game 7, and it's up in the air. I don't know, Gore. I don't know.
And now the question comes down. Do we get a third ruckus? And which ruckus does it come down to? Is it
right.
an 0-12 ruckus? Is it like a 6-7 ruckus? Or is it like a 12-1 ruckus? You'll never know.
Well, hopefully you like game 7s because that's what we got. But first, let's hear what the desk is thinking.
Great call from Game 6 Clay there, our very own Dolson, but great game as well from Game 6 Clay of Spacestation Gaming. I mean, they were killing it there. This run back, the salty run back almost with the ruckus ends up paying off beautifully.
It's a much heavier skirmish map, right? There's not a ton of cover, so, moving around, rotating things, Ruckus does very, very well, very self-sufficient in those team fights as well. All of SSG play that very, very nicely. And again, I think getting back to and slowing down in that draft helped them a lot there. I think that was a good way to go for them. Obviously, hindsight, but picking that Tyra is something, like I said, they've been on the upswing with particularly. I think Ares has a great game. So much synergy there. They didn't have to snag Eevee. They got Maeve, and it was almost just as good. I think it's, FRZ is really coming into his own with this pick. Ares is 15-6. FRZ's right there with them, you know what I mean? So taking their time and really thinking this draft through for Spacestation paid huge dividends for them.
Man, and the Genos as well, 4,700 credits. I mean, he was raking in the cash in this game. But the point control this Tyra provides, Ares, love the way that he positions kind of on that little hill right there and keeps himself in safekeeping, but still in close enough position that he can attack the point when ready.
Yeah, you don't love to dive this character at the end of the day when you're creatives, when you're all marked up. We talked about, just needing to take this away so you don't give all of that synergy to SSG. But at the end of the day, there's pros and cons to everything, and I think SSG just really played around their win conditions very, very well.
Yeah, NT to creatives there as he tried to blink in Ron Ares during the ultimate, and it did not go his way towards the back end right there. Impressive stuff from Ares on that Tyra. Space Station Gaming forced the game 7. In Na'Vi, I mean, I feel like you've got to feel so confident going into Game 6. Sadak just was on full int mode the game before on Ruckus. Now he's got it again. This is easy for us. And then he pops off on it, and now it's like, well, what do we do now?
Oof, just judging off momentum there. I mean, the faces of Na'Vi are not great, I think, going into Game 7. So having that momentum going into Game 7 for SSG is going to be a big thing. And now you're starting to introduce more human elements, human error, things like that. This set is getting long. These players are getting more tired. They're probably not going to be quite as sharp as they were in Game number 1. And as we wind it down on Ascension Peak, there's a lot on the table for them to pick.
SSG certainly with their backs against the wall here, but as is Na'Vi. Don't forget, by the way, that this isn't Space Station Gaming's only set today. So for this to go 7 is that much more of a cross to bear for them when they go up against their later opponents today.
Yes, but they've done it before. That's my thing there, and they do maybe give away a couple of things, but I think this is unequivocally their harder matchup. So they get this one out of the way. I really do believe that they will win their next one as well.
The other week that that SSG had, where they played 2 sets in one day, they won their first set 4-3, Game 7.
Yep.
And then crushed in the later set. So something to keep an eye out for sure. Na'Vi going with a couple of frontliner bans, Torvald and Ash. SSG have a choice here. Do they give up the Makoa again?
I don't think so. I think you can at least deal with the con a little bit better. Maybe
do you leave both open, maybe?
Maybe, if anything. Yeah, that's your option B. But that's kind of what they tried on Jaguar Falls. And I don't know how well that necessarily. Obviously, they got 4-0, so that's kind of how that went for them. But they could adjust other things in the draft. I think the Drogos was a big conversation as well. The fact that on Jag, he really wasn't involved in a lot of those fights. But SSG are looking to kind of play it a little bit safe here and allow that con to go to Na'Vi.
So they do keep that Makoa out of the hands of Phoenix, but that means that Na'Vi will get the con. Normally Na'Vi in these sorts of spots have been going Inara Barrack, but Space Station didn't seem to want to do that earlier on. Maybe changing their minds here, though, as those are the 2 picks that they're hovering.
And Ascension Peak is unique in that it has, it's either here or the new map Bazaar. They both have extremely large points. They're not the little circles. They're both, big rectangles, and I think Bazaar is technically a square if you want to get specific. But
I do.
They're very, very large points. So these point tanks can be very useful, but also, and there's sometimes I see where I don't know if you need like a hard dedicated point tank because there is cover on the point. You can hide behind a statue and still be contesting the objective. But I think it comes down to maybe making Lazy uncomfortable at the end of the day, getting both of his picks off. But they will, then that's Stone Keep. We've had so many different types of draft.
Right.
We've had really kind of things to point to and evidence that these teams can win in a lot of different situations. So I don't know what the way out of this one is for SSG.
Don't forget, at the very beginning of this set, we did the interview with Spunky. He was talking about how if you take Eevee away from FRZ God, then he gets a lot less effective. Na'Vi, as we're in Game 7 now, has made sure that has not happened once. They keep it away from him all set long, but it hasn't stopped his impact, Nick. I mean, his Mave has been phenomenal.
Yeah, the Mave's been really good. Mave Tyra is open this game. The problem is there would be nothing to dive with him. There's no backup from Sadak. He does not have the option to really keep up with a flanker this game, as he would be able to do a little bit better, I think, on Khan or like an Ashe.
Ooh.
Leon was definitely one that I was thinking about because Serpent Beach went so well for Freeze God.
Yep.
It's a good matchup, like I said, against flankers like Eevee Mave. You have a lot of guaranteed damage, and it's going to take a little bit of the turbo dab, I think, from Sadak to win this one.
Hey man, Game 7, you break out anything in the back pocket.
Yeah.
You gotta leave it all on the line, and if the turbo dab is what it requires, then a turbo dab is what it requires. Genos Fernando round out the draft here for Na'Vi. Is Vivian the final selection here for SSG? So a lot of capability to shred this front line now, and some good long range damage as well from SSG.
I think at the end of the day, if they deal with this Eevee, they'll have a good chance at it. They've drafted double backline, low mobility, so Eevee is going to kind of have her pick of the litter. She's going to be able to get back on these characters, but there is just so much of that low mobility backliner damage that there's a line to be walked there for Eevee. She's not going to be able to get in there and do it for free. Great drafts from both squads. This one's decided by the players.
Game 7. This is what we were hoping for with this set. It's going to be a lot of fun. We've got Gormizer and the man of 1,000 voices, Dave Olson.
Oof. Now that one I like. That's a Destiny reference, so I appreciate that, because the end of the raid, I don't know what the extremely rare drop is. Either way, that's not what we're here for. What we're here for is a Game 7. And I hope you're all ready, because we are, Gore and I, we went back, drank some water, had a couple throat lozenges, because Game 7, that's what you hope for out of this set. These two teams so close in the standings, so close in this set, and no glaring issues in the draft. The fact that this one truly is going to come down to just whoever plays better, that's what you hope for. You don't want something in the draft that's like, well, that's like a Makoa going through, you're like, well, this one is now over because it's a Makoa. This one truly, I think, comes down to just whoever comes to play.
And the shakedown. I mean, Na'Vi winning this potentially puts them, depending on how their NIP game goes tomorrow, in a position where there'd be a three-way tie in the standings, right? Depending on how their games go the rest of the day, the games go the rest of the week. SSG winning this rips that away. So you can at least see some of that come through.
Yep.
So a little bit more pressure on them. They want to confirm themselves a better standing position going into that tournament than they have right now, and this is the way to do it.
And this is a Na'Vi pick, remember, but Spacestation Gaming, this is a map they're familiar with. They would probably have picked this map as well. Neither team really with a super high, this is our favorite map, I would say, in this matchup. Creatives finds the opening kill, minute and a half into this one. Yet again, Creatives, Ares, Freeze God, Mutu, one of them has to come up big in this one, but right now it's the Eevee, a double kill, 2 out of 2 for Creatives. One more goes on to Phoenix. 0 kills here for Spacestation Gaming. Only Mittal is undying, and 63% for Natus Vincere on your first point.
And they're going to be knocking them down at least a little bit, but I mean, 81, rising, a lot of control. There's an Inara who's going to be able to slip through, going to be able to touch down, but she's in a pool of sharks, and
That's
she
right.
is a nice juicy steak. That is not going to last long.
Yeah, but here's the retake. Phoenix just getting plugged away from behind. Finally has to throw up the shield, but he's in a bit of an awkward spot right now. Mutu and Phoenix both caught out, both low. The Dread Serpent's good. No kills on the back end of it. The first round of ultimates coming through. Lazy's going to catch the first death on the side of Natus Vincere. Spacestation Gaming, now they're fighting from the point. They need to put out a good defense. Creatives blinks in. He stalls things out. So low right now. So low is Phoenix. Spunky's down, so there's no more healing for Natus Vincere. Spacestation Gaming, they're on the point, and they could put in a good zone.
A couple of good shots here from Creatives could make a big difference. He misses a couple. And now he's forced to retreat. Does stay alive, though. Still out there. Still getting
that's
healed
big.
up. Mutu, Lazy put their names on the board.
Oh,
and now they're going
no.
to get a good overpower.
Overpower as well. The kills from Mutu and Lazy. The overpower, that might just seal it. Dome Shield buys time. Sadak throws that one down just to keep himself alive. It's not going to help. Mutu going huge on the Cassie. 99%. That's going to become 100. And that 0, that's going to become 1. Natus Vincere, they're pushing now for 2.
The payload.
A lot of good control and a lot of good plays.
Yes.
Exactly what Na'Vi have showcased. Every game they've won, all 3 that they've won so far, they've had this. And the ones where SSG have won, it's never them making mistakes on the side of Na'Vi. It's SSG forcing them into bad positions, right? Taking control of the map, being able to kind of corral them around. But when you have the overpower that's coming through, when you have Mutu specifically playing the way he is and Creatives hitting as hard as he is on this Eevee, it becomes a completely different game that you're having to play.
This payload's moving quickly, Gore. Creatives is starting to come up huge. Every member of Na'Vi burning away on a streak right now. Genos, Spunky, he's been doing good. Only 2 deaths right now on the side of Natus Vincere. Only 2 deaths. Creatives is huge. Phoenix as well. You can't ignore him when you put him on the con. He's going to play so well. They just haven't been able to find any space to operate Spacestation Gaming. They had that one fight win, but it was more Natus Vincere backing off, trying to regroup. Now this payload within striking distance, no room for error for Spacestation Gaming. That's going to help you out. Getting rid of the big guy. Creatives is gone. Answering back with one onto Rachao, though. That's so important. Mutu just trying to fire away from the side. Ares doing the same, but on the opposite side of the map. Phoenix is melting away. The Dread Serpent's good through time and space. Comes up, but just a little bit short here. Creatives trying to get back into the fight, but Sadak is going to be the one holding down this payload. There's still a minute left, Gore. Natus Vincere have so much time.
Mutu applying pressure from where he is, and the front lines playing the way they are right now is making a huge difference.
That's
going
a
great enlightenment, but it doesn't
That's
reward
going in.
the kill. And that's going to be 3 big, 4 big, 5 big there for Na'Vi.
Oh my. This is a scary looking Na'Vi right now. This is so important that Spacestation Gaming make use of this comeback mechanic, that 4% per tick. This is so important that Spacestation Gaming win this point, because 3-0, even if you get the defense 3-1 with the way Na'Vi are looking right now, that could just be too much. Creatives time and time again today has been coming up huge. This match is no exception. 2 kills to start off the game. Top damage as well. On the opposite side, Sadak, so good on the barrack, adding back a little of that frontline pressure, but the rest of the team just hasn't been able to find that footing. Ares, only above the healers in this one. That's not what you expect out of your Vivian.
I mean, even with all the damage that you see Sadak being able to put out, even with the damage numbers, if you combine them all on SSG, slash lines aren't looking that good. I think Barrack was 1-4. Sentinel's going to come out, though. And this is where Vivian should be able to, add that chunk damage.
This is where she needs to be able to do it.
Well,
instead, 13 health. He stays alive, though. Is able to get back around the corner. Sentinel's still alive and well. Now he can bop around this corner, shred away the shields, but now the Sentinels are gone. Creatives looking to get in on FRZ God. The shots are good. The healing's a little bit better, though. Into the healing puddle he goes, 27%. Neither team losing one. Rachao is so low. Lazy finds the first kill in this re-engage. FRZ God looking for Creatives. He knows where he is. That's going to be an immortal from Lazy. It's actually going to help out some of his teammates as well. Phoenix just holding down this high ground from so many members. Spacestation Gaming's not able to move forward. There's the Dread Serpent, but Lazy, he catches in it, but he doesn't end up dying. Natus Vincere, so much is getting thrown at them, but they're not dying.
And they've itemized well, they're playing well, they're corralling well, and again, as you've said in the last couple of games, they're playing from the point. They're at 78%. They do end up losing a little more of their grip on that fight. Pushed back.
Yep.
2 kills, though, exactly the same way last round.
This is where
Lazy
comeback
might go
mechanic.
down, though. And now comeback mechanic can catch him up. But I don't know if it's going to be enough. That's actually kind of where my mind is at. You have control, you have comeback mechanic. Theoretically, the next 10 seconds, 20 seconds, you'll have this point.
Right.
But I don't know. It kind of depends on where Creatives themselves.
It's like they won the fight so fast that the stagger wasn't full. You're going to have everyone respawning and coming back at you basically at the same time. And that's where the eyebrows get raised, because they'll get it up to, mid to high 80s, even into the 90s. But it's that retake, because Na'Vi, they had a pretty good chunk on the point as well. And this one's very, very important. Both teams pretty much threw everything at the wall there. Spacestation Gaming win the important team fight. But Na'Vi, where we stand right now, where the game gets paused, certainly more than enough time to get back in and get a touch.
And they have one of the best champions, if not the best
Yep.
champion, to keep yourself in overtime. And Creatives has been playing incredibly well. He's been getting a little more locked down this last round because of FRZ God and having the shots being able to trace him a lot easier in the air from that Leon. But if he just gets in like that, gets out, well, he has to stay alive there to
That's
make a
an
big
important
difference.
pick. I think that's the difference maker here with 97% overtime ticking away. It's going to be on Phoenix to try to get in, but there's too much damage being returned. Mutu's going to get in, get the tumble. No damage actually focused on him. Everyone focused on Phoenix, but Phoenix does fall. That's so important. Lazy as well. Last minute touch for him. Overtime. It's all down to Mutu. Firing away. Ares actually wins that engagement. Rachao helps him out, and this is not going to landslide the way of Natus Vincere. Spacestation Gaming able to find point number 1, and they're pushing to tie.
And it is that moment where you said it, where it's just like, if Creatives doesn't die there, if he's able to stay alive, go ice block something to stay alive in that scenario, gets another overtime touch, gets to at least have some damage in the fight. He gets blown up before anybody else on his team is really prepared to help out. Mutu was there, but it's not going to be enough with just the two of them. They need their front lines to create that room. And now it seems like SSG have figured it out. They know what they want.
That was a beautiful, beautiful Dread Serpent from Midtow up onto the high ground. Sets up a couple kills. Mutu answers back, though. No healing for at least 10 or so seconds coming through for Space Station Gaming. They're going to have to back off and regroup. Mutu as well keeps finding the kills. That's 2 now on the Cassie. Space Station Gaming have a minute and a half left. 2-1 is my favorite game scoreline to watch. 2-1 is my favorite point scoreline to watch. It changes around so much. If Natus Vincere are able to go up 3-1, they have 2 or 3 more tries at it. Sentinel's coming through for Ares right now. He's had neither here nor there of a performance with the Sentinel so far in this game. FRZ, though, he's making his presence felt on the Leon. Make it 3 now with Rachao adding 1 into this fight. Creatives into the ice block. Damage getting returned, but he blinks out beautifully. Right back in, though, into the waiting arms of FRZ. And Space Station Gaming, they've retaken with a minute left on the clock.
That's going to buy them a good chunk of space on this payload being bought. A minute left, so they do still have some time to play with. If they wipe soon, it's not the end of the world for them. But they're coming up on the archway. They're coming up to where the high ground is given to the defenders. They're going to be looking down upon SSG on the side of Na'Vi. And when you have someone like Cassie, that's really good. For Evie, she's probably going to be bouncing around a lot. It gives her a safe place to go home to. But for the most part, I think Creatives, Mutu, definitely going to be looking big here.
And if you're Space Station and you're going to use ultimates here, you better be sure that that payload goes through, because if it becomes 3-1 at an ultimate disadvantage going into that next mid-fight, Natus Vincere, they're in the not necessarily the driver's seat as far as this side. They're
They've
defending.
got like a hand on the steering wheel.
But as far as the ultimate economy is here, they're okay to not use ultimates and let this one go in. But that's a personal player decision. What matters is what Space Station use and if they're able to get it through. Sadak is going low. There's a seismic crash, so they're using it. They need this one to pay off. Phoenix is low. That's going to be 2 frontliners down. Creatives doesn't blink in, and Space Station Gaming, just a couple of ultimates, just 1 or 2, make it 3 with the Enlightenment and Dread Serpent. They tie this one up, and that's huge. 2-2 is so much different than 3-1. This one's going to come down to the wire.
It gives you time. And that's like the biggest thing right now. Again, this is actually something I was talking with the players about the other day, but 5 seconds in real life, 5 seconds in other games means nothing. 5 seconds in Paladins is a lot.
Yeah.
And
it seems
when
like
you're
forever.
looking at this period of, you know what, maybe we don't have the ults to win this fight, but they're not going to have comeback mechanic to capture it. They're not going to win the game if we aren't on that fight. We can let them have 50% at the very beginning here. Na'Vi can grab it, and we can just play patiently, charge up our ults, and be ready for it. We have a Dome Shield. We can buy time with that. We're about to have Sentinels. We can get kills with that.
Yep.
And Freeze God is just Freeze God. So we know he's going to be able to perform whether or not he has an ultimate. And so it's going to come down to what Na'Vi decide to do.
Well,
much like the Death said, it's all the players.
It's all the players. The only ultimate that Space Station had coming into this one was the Dome Shield. That gets used. If he's able to find Creatives, that tilts things back. Everything from Natus Vincere, though, that's starting to really get thrown at the wall. Spunky as well. The inherent ultimate disadvantage wins this initial engage for Natus Vincere. Now they're fighting from the point. Spunky coming up big. Not only is he healing, not only is he buffing, he's also finding some kills, and Natus Vincere are the better for it. 66% now. The overpower, a little bit late, but finds a kill onto Rachao. Natus Vincere very close to taking point number 3.
And if you want to talk about a stagger, I mean, Inara's not going to be back for 5 seconds, and Sadak just got sent back to base. Like, no one on SSG was in a position to be prepared for that overpower. Maybe Inara could have touched down, but that was, again, beautifully executed from Na'Vi. Almost like a surgical knife, right?
Yep.
They knew where to cut, and they did. And that was the entire fight.
And now we're down to do or die. Natus Vincere, they push this, they win. Spacestation Gaming, they have to defend if they want to force another point fight there towards the middle. Creatives is going to be the big guy that you have to knock down if you're on the side of Spacestation Gaming. This defense starting off well for them. Seismic Crash gets burned. Out come the Sentinels as well. Ares is in a beautiful spot to make use. Raining down damage from above, but chooses to go down to the low ground. Doesn't find any kills. Might find death. Mutu evens things up here. Mitau answers back with one on his own. The rest of Space Station are able to get forward. That's a beautiful flick shot from the Cassie. Space Station Gaming, they need to weather this storm. If too many kills start to get staggered out here, Natus Vincere could push it in. But FRZ, Mitau, they're alive. They're finding kills. The Leon is going big, wrapping away at Phoenix. Mitau as well. It's the healer. It's the Leon. They're going to stall this one out with 1 minute and 20 seconds left.
He's still going. He's still looking for more. Freeze God comes through single-handedly, eradicates Na'Vi, and wants to do it again. He's pressing them back as hard as he can. And again, it's not a full court press. It's not making sure that they won't touch that payload again. It's definitely making them doubt their own ability to get back there. Creative is going to be bouncing around, but not for long. That's going to be a good shot, good tracing. And again, Freeze God giving us a reason to fear the Leon.
That was a lost fight. They lost that fight. It was literally just Mitau and FRZ. The healing was huge for Freeze God, or I should say from Mitau onto Freeze God. And these shots were crisp. They rang true. 150,000 healing, 140,000 healing. Both healers doing what they need to do. But that fight was so overwhelmingly in favor of Natus Vincere to start. And then Space Station Gaming just needs some big individual plays to pull it back. 27 seconds left now. Creatives has a couple on this retake attempt. The more time that they can buy. This does start to get dangerous, though. You only have 3 members. Make it 2 now for Space Station Gaming. They're going to have another shot on these respawns with 15 seconds left, but it's going to come down to this. You have to utilize this high ground in order to win this fight, because this payload is going to get very close with overtime soon to start.
And SSG, patient. They're not going to poke out, take any unnecessary damage. They're going to come out as a unit, and they're going to come out ready to fight in overtime. And like you said, do or die. The most ultimate do or die. 3-2, and Na'Vi are still pushing forward. That kill right here could mean everything, but they're not going to be able to find
Oh, they're not able to find him. Creatives goes huge. That's a massive ice storm. Ares and FRZ, there's no more damage. Sidak has to stay alive. The Dome Shield is buying time for both of the frontliners here in this case. The respawns may be coming through. Getting rid of Creatives is massive. Rashao gets the Seismic Crash off, but trades out his life. Mutu and Ares are trading back and forth. Freeze God is back on the respawn. There's only 1 member left, and we're going to a .7.
Game 7, .7. I feel like we end
What
up
is it
here
with
a lot
Kresnik?
in these last few
Kresnik
weeks.
in Game 7 .7s, dude.
He knows.
Whether he's casting or coaching, Space Station always find a way, especially on their double header days. They get Game 1 goes 7. Maybe that bodes well for Game 2, but it's going to depend on whether or not they win this one.
I'm going to tell you.
Oh my.
If I'm looking into the future, I'm a little shaky if I'm Renegades. They had a week off, so they're going to come in comfortable. You don't get better warm-up than this. Even if you take a little break, like SSG after this game are going to get lunch, they're going to refuel, and they're going to come back in on fire. Like, they're going to be a scary thing to take on. And that's just the second set. They still have this point, though. If they lose this, could change the entire tune of what we see from them the rest of the day.
Only Sentinels for Space Station Gaming. Overpower, soon to be through time and space. Freeze God going toe-to-toe. Creatives finds the first kill. FRZ God being gone. That's such a huge loss. He was the one who won that last fight for them. Kept them in that game through time and space. Goes wide. Space Station Gaming, they need to back off. They need to just stop dying here in this case. Overpower's good. That goes on to Rachao. Sadak and Mitau are down as well. Natus Vincere, they're going to be on the point. This is going to get to 50, maybe 60. Space Station Gaming, they have to regroup. Maybe even 70 now at this point. No ultimates, though, for Natus Vincere. Here are the Sentinels. Can you win this 1v1? Mutu's getting low. The tumble goes out. His health bar, though, he turns around. The flick shot onto Ares. Now it's a 5v4. Space Station Gaming again at a numbers disadvantage. Creatives, that's a second. That was as clean as you could hope. Natus Vincere, they pull out the win. Game 7, .7, and a win for Na'Vi.
I mean, killing off anyone on the sides that happened to straggle through. A beautiful void grip from Spunky at the very end just to make sure no overtime touch was achieved, and it locked it down. It was a really, really good defense into a really, really lackluster point fight from SSG there. But I would say I think it was more Na'Vi just playing with zero mistakes during the end there. They
That
just
was
did
clean.
not leave any room for SSG to take a step forward.
That turnaround flick shot from Mutu onto Ares. Ares was chasing him down, returns it right away. If Mutu falls there on the Cassie, we're maybe talking a different story here. But what matters is strong individual play, strong team play from Na'Vi. The rest of Thursday has a lot to live up to because set 1 went 7, and then game 7 went 7, but Na'Vi, they get the win. Spacestation Gaming, we'll see them next, but let's send it back to the desk.
Man, a nail biter there towards the end. We get game 7, round 7. But Na'Vi, I mean, we were watching it here, Nick. You were saying, yeah, Na'Vi just expended a lot of ults to try and get that point in right before. And then they just backhanded Spacestation.
I don't know, that last team fight, it just comes back to, for me, SSG always have these nutty 7 gamers with the Envies and with the Na'Vis. They're always just right there when it comes to taking down a juggernaut from one of these other regions. But then they just fall short. It's just a little something. A lot of times it's like that. It's a winnable fight, and that one was very, very clean cut the way of Na'Vi. It feels a little lazy to break it down that way, but that's kind of what it was. Na'Vi just literally won that fight. They kind of had Space Station on the back rope from very early onset in that final round.
Man, a huge win for Na'Vi. They set themselves up for great success to try and secure that 2nd seed going into the midseason invitational. What a game from Mutu, 22-5. Creatives really tasked with keeping this pick away from FRZ God, turns it into a huge addition to the squad, not just an addition by subtraction.
Phoenix and Mutu played incredible together today, and Mutu has brought back this style of Impulse Cassie where it's just a more anti-flank. It's a higher burst damage up front type of thing. You're not as good against the front lines, but Navi's good, and Mutu specifically at just picking his battles and winning the right fights, playing very well around his off-tank, which, you know, kind of puts your backliner on steroids in a sense when you have this beefcake in front of him, compensating for the only weakness Mutu has, which is a lack of HP.
Not an issue whenever Phoenix is holding his hand.
This too. I'm surprised he won this so hard, as hard as he did. Ares comes around the corner, guns blazing, but that's the burst damage. That's Impulse Cassie, and that's what he played so well around. Ares had that fight going so well from him until that moment.
Yeah, is like 1,200 instant damage good?
Good? Yeah, that's good. I know you're new here, but
right. Yeah,
but,
that just seemed good to me. I don't know.
2,200 HP. You take 1,200 of that off the gate.
Yeah, that's like only 1,000. Yeah, okay, yeah,
it's
that's
about
good.
half.
Yeah, we like that. We like that for sure, and you like it if you're a Na'Vi fan. 9-4 will be their settings right now, plus 17 as well. They're not out of the woods. Envy, Space Station still have games to play.
Yeah,
could end up with that 3-way tie for second, but. They took care of business here today. You can only beat what's in front of you.
Because of how clean this was, though, Na'Vi, I think, are going to be locked ahead of Envy in the standings at this point. Envy, I will say, they have an easy. They have pretty much I think, almost a throwaway win, I would say. They should defeat the Pittsburgh Knights here. There really shouldn't be much of a contest there. But I'm almost wondering, because of how, framing how easy this should be for them, I wonder if they waver at all.
Yeah, that's always a concern whenever a team is feeling confident and coming in like, oh yeah, we got this. Because Pittsburgh Knights, I mean, in a team like that, they're going to MSI, I believe, or no, they're on the back end, right? They're out of MSI.
Nothing to lose. A wolf in the corner.
Right. Just let's pick whatever we want, and if we lose, we lose. Let's see what happens. That can be a struggle sometimes for some of these teams. But Na'Vi is certainly in that second spot. Envy trying to catch them. Space Station also trying to catch them. Space Station, they closed the day against Renegades.
Yeah.
And that, again, should be the same sort of situation, right? Renegades really struggled this year. We expect an easy Space Station win, but you never know.
Exactly, yeah. Renegades, they're volatile, man. Some days they come in, they take two maps off NIP, and you're just like, wait, what's up? and other days you're just like, ooh. Like, we don't want any more of that. So it's like what Renegade shows up today against SSG. I think what is going well for SSG right now is that was a very good set. Sure. I don't know if they're super upset with the way that it went. It sucks to lose after such a long, grueling set, sure, but they put up one hell of a fight, and I think that's something that can hold their heads high. They seemed okay, in the handshakes and things like that. They were smiling, heads held high coming out of the booth, so should be good for that matchup later on with the Renegades.
Yeah, but not quite as happy as the guys on Na'Vi. They come away with a victory here today up against Space Station Gaming. We've got some members of Na'Vi standing by for their post-game interview.
Well, fellas, congratulations. A 7-game set comes up the way of Na'Vi. We had a very specific question, and Naturally, you two being up here is pretty good. Normally, I would say when we see Barrack and Nara, we'd have Lazy on the Inara and you, Phoenix, on the Barrack. Why the swap today?
It was an idea that I had in scrims where, as off-tank, basically what you want to do is you hold as many people off as possible. And I was like, with Inara, I can just do that for free because there's not going to be a lot of damage, a lot of cover to hide behind. I'm not standing in an open point like Inara usually is. So with the tankiness I have, I can actually hold off more. So when we started doing it, and we got success with it.
So I want to know, going into it, Ascension Peak, 3-3, a really solid defense from SSG going into the last point fight. There's pressure to win the game. Evidently, there's also pressure to use the bathroom going on for you guys as well. Like, what was it like going into that to like kind of keep your heads level and win so convincingly?
So in the beginning of the 3-3, Kratos got that kill on Lian and actually just outplayed the Barrack on top of that, and he just created so much space for us that we didn't have to use that many ults. Then we basically just cleaned them up. But what mattered the most was when Faye actually ulted the Dinara with Khan and actually just held her there for a while so we can also stagger her and kill her late. So the only thing we had to kill was Barrack. Nobody else could touch the point.
So I was kind of watching that, and I was just like, well, they're like they're in fight mode, but then they kind of slow down and realize, hey, maybe we actually slow down on this Inara a little bit. Faye, I wanted to talk to you about Makoa and Atlas. Those are power picks. Those are banned 99% of the time. So when you get those picks, do you feel like that's them walking you into that pick with a plan constructed around it and how to defeat it? But then you just 4-0 them. So is that something that's just too strong, or are you just too confident on?
The off-tank right now, like all of them are very, very strong. Khan, Atlas, Makoa, all of them are just really strong right now. And whenever you leave them open, you know they're gonna have a plan against you. But I just feel confident, very confident on those champions, and I'm happy whenever I get it. So as soon as we saw Makoa first game, I was like, I'll take it.
I was just sitting there in the comms all the time, like, nice Faye, nice Faye, nice Faye, just hitting all those hooks.
Well, last question. With this win, you guys, I don't think fully cement, but are a pretty good spot for taking the number 2 seed going into MSI. I asked this to SSG. How important is having a very good seed in MSI, or do you think really anyone can beat anyone at that point?
Personally, I feel like it's not even that impactful. Second, third, first, like as long as you qualify, in the end you have to beat everyone to win, so that's the goal. What matters most to me is the record continues towards the World Championship qualifiers, so that's what we're worried mostly about. So getting the win helps us qualify towards Worlds as well, and that's what the goal was.
Well, got the win you did. Congratulations, guys. Big one against NIP tomorrow. We're going to send it to a quick break, but when we come back, we got Envy and we got the Knights.
Perfect.